Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
Great. All right. You're cool. Let's do this.
Let's call that an
kick it
intro.
off like any normal episode, guys. Like we're all in the stewed together.
The stewed.
The stewed.
It's having a normal one.
And Vin is here with us.
Vin is here with us. Is this how the episode starts? Are we saying this is the official?
Yep.
No,
I think
come
Ben,
on. Let's make it a big thing. Let's
Okay.
No, what Ben said is definitely the
It's
start.
tough to make the 5. And it's tough to stay alive. It's topical, you see, because this is our 5th anniversary, and also we are amidst a pandemic.
There you go.
So both things are true. This, of course, is a very special episode. I'm calling it right now our best episode ever. It's the Blank Check 5th anniversary self-quarantine social distancing spectacular.
Coming live to you from each of our homes.
Live from 4 different apartments.
That's
We've
true.
got bigger, nice. Or is it? Yeah, bigger, nice.
It's little nicer.
Little nicer.
Little nicer.
Nicer.
I'm sorry. And then, of course, I'm here at Small Fine.
It's small, it's fine.
Yeah, pretty much.
I'm here live from Medium Messy, but I have taken advantage of, we're recording this episode via Zoom for the first time,
Yeah.
and Zoom allows you to change your background, so I've been cycling through different background photos of Vin Diesel. So
Yeah.
right now I have a black and white photo of Vin Diesel in a boxing pose above my shoulder.
Is he in
So he
like
is
a
with us
satin jacket?
spiritually. I think he is. Now, David has also added a picture of Vin Diesel to his background.
I can't see his
No,
head.
this is not Vin, but it's not a very good one. I'm trying to find it, but here we go. How about this one?
David has
Okay,
a
this
shirtless man holding a goat, a baby
It's
goat,
not
or
Vin,
a
though?
kid.
Who's the shirtless man?
There he
Okay,
is.
and
But wait, it's
of course-
it's
Oh, yeah,
mirrored.
Colin.
David, yes, it does it backwards, but David has posted a shirtless picture of Colin Farrell from Tigerland.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay. So
Classic.
we're putting our crushes in our background image. It's hard to do, Ange.
My cat just
j-
joined.
It's hard to do,
Joining
much
us as
like
well-
making the 5.
It's tough to make the 5, and it's tough to find a good background image of your celebrity crush. Angela Barracudo Ferragudo joining us as well. We don't have a name for your apartment yet.
No, you guys haven't been to my apartment, I don't think.
We haven't.
No.
Could
I've
you-
dropped you off outside of your apartment. That is
Right.
that is the most I have been to your apartment.
Yeah. I don't know.
You don't have a name at the tip of your tongue. We'll come up with it at some point over the
No,
course
I
of
mean,
this
my
episode.
apartment, we have like a nickname for ourselves, but it's named after the street we live on, so I would rather not say that on mic.
100%.
All right, how about this
Don't-
one? This
don't
one's
do
good.
that.
This one's good,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Yeah,
We got
David's
Jamie.
background is now Miami Vice, and he's sitting directly in between Tubbs and Crockett.
Yeah.
It's pretty perfect.
Yeah, that one's good. Okay, good. Now I feel good. So here we are. We had originally had some sort of plan for our 5th anniversary episode. I can't even really. I guess we were all just going to hang out and do stuff. There was some thought of us initially doing the Phantom Menace.
We had a full plan.
I was gonna get a top hat and a cane and do a whole dance routine.
Like the
It was
frog
heavily
from
scripted.
WB? Okay.
Yes.
I mean,
Okay.
I would
Yes.
say we probably had more plans this weekend. Monday, I'm pretty sure, was
Sure.
where our focus was for a while.
Yes, we had a lot of different plans in place, including 2 live shows we were going to do, and
Yeah.
this, and Ben was going to go full Michigan J. Frog. And we're going to improvise a little bit here, because the show must go on.
Yeah.
So through
Right.
the magic of technology, the 4 of us are going to hang out here and talk about this journey we've been on for the last 5 years. And when I say we, I mean the royal we, including you, the listener.
Ange ducked off screen. It looked like she was barfing at you saying that, but I think she was just petting her cat.
No,
Might have been
I
a little
was.
bit of both.
He's trying to curl up on my hoodie, and I was moving some items out of the way for him.
Right.
Yep, he's doing it
Right.
now. There he goes.
Oh, there he is.
It's very cute.
All right. So you're right. Yes, it's been 5 years. It's been almost exactly 5 years, right?
Monday, March 23rd is the 5-year anniversary of the first episode of Griffin and David Present the Phantom Podcast.
Where we talked about the first 7-ish minutes of The Phantom Menace.
I mean, we joke, but maybe our worst episode ever. It's that
bottom 10. Bottom 5? Makes the bottom 5?
2. I think it's a hard bottom 2. I think that and Amistad are undeniably the 2 worst ones. Because that episode is us explaining the bit that we're never going to address for the rest of the series in too great detail.
Yes, we talked too much about that. I still think you're too hard on the Amistad episode, but I'll admit it's been a while.
Yeah, it's also like a brisk 41 minutes.
Yeah.
Which for us doesn't even really count as an episode. That's pretty much an ad read.
Yeah, now that's a March Madness recap if we rush it.
Yes. Yeah.
All right. So anyway, we're here. We are going to embark on our next mini-series next Sunday, correct?
Correct. No Ben's Choice. This
29th.
is serving the palate cleanser role. Next Monday, we're driving straight into the wasteland. Or at least a pre-wasteland Australia with Mad Max.
Yeah, although it was actually a pre-Wasteland America when we recorded it.
Whoa.
So
that is true.
If we don't talk about various coronavirus, that's because it wasn't on our mind whenever we fucking talked about Mad Max in Ben's apartment.
I mean, definitely in the Beyond Thunderdome episode, I refer to the time we're recording as peak coronavirus panic. And boy, was I naive back then 2 weeks ago.
Wow, you have made some bad calls on this podcast, but that was one of the worst.
One of the worst. I called it peak coronavirus. A time where I was able to then leave the recording studio where I was in the same room as all of you and then go out and casually walk down the street, shake some hands, buy a sandwich, spit on strangers.
Do your Watto show.
I did my Watto show.
That was 2 weeks ago, and now
the UCB might never reopen.
Watto ended it. That's what I was telling David. It's just like, it's done.
It is. I mean, there is some weird symmetry there to, 5 years ago, you and I, David, we go into a small closet at the offices of UCB Comedy where Ben Hosley is being paid in classes and has been given permission to give us a flyer, to give us 10 episodes. Todd Bieber graciously said, why not? And allowed you... Big shout out to Todd Bieber, allowed you to give us 10 episodes, and it all stemmed out of a Watto tweet. And now 5 years later, I did a Watto show, and UCB might close forever.
We're only laughing because it's terrible.
It's awful. All of it's bad. Everything's bad, except for Watto. Watto's doing really well.
And also, hello, this guy.
I'm looking at right now an email from February 17th, 2015.
Oh!
Where I followed up with you guys after meeting with Todd.
And you never had to follow up with us ever again via email. That's not something you regularly have to do.
It's one and done.
And I'm looking here, and it's saying not sustainable. Interesting. That's there.
Does not have legs.
Good call.
But no, I mean, it was a thing that Todd was just like, yeah, sure, whatever. Like, he was really like giving me the chance to just make stuff for UCB, and you guys pitched this insane idea. We've discussed it before on our 100th, and
we've discussed
it's come up. Yeah, it was such a great opportunity to be able to record in the closet with you guys, the windowless closet. And that's where this all started.
Griffin changed the picture again, and it seems to be some sort of double Vin Diesel. It's some sort of Parent Trap situation.
He's got longboard shorts on.
He's got longboard shorts. It's two of him that are shirtless, and I was jealous of the fact that you got to sit in between Crockett and Tubbs, so I wanted to sit between Vin and Vin. Yes, it was a flyer, and I remember we finished recording, and Ben, you said, well, you guys will get the hang of it. And then...
Yes, you were not enthused. You were like, all right.
And then the second episode, you were like, that was actually, you were like, that was surprisingly listenable. That was like a real episode, guys.
Yeah.
Right. And then we were off to the races.
Yes.
Truly.
End of story. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to read.
That's it. And here
That's
we
it.
are. And nothing happened in between. We didn't learn any lessons along the way or anything.
Absolutely not.
To think back of in those days when we started the show and podcasting, I mean, had, you know, been around, but it wasn't as popular as it is at this very moment, for sure.
Conan had not yet entered the fray. Right.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
It was popular, but it hadn't been invented yet. Yeah.
Right.
Right.
I think Serial had happened, of course.
Serial
right?
had happened.
Right.
So
because we
it
were
was-
referencing Serial.
It was post-Serial, pre-Conan.
Yes. But, you know, it's funny. I was talking to Kevin Porter, friend of the show, featured guest, who
Former
hosted
Gilmore guy.
Gilmore Guys, right.
One
Now
of the
has gone
Gilmore
to do
Guys.
many other shows, Good Christian Fun and Inside Voices. But he did Gilmore Guys, which I think had been running for at least a year at the time that we started our show.
Yeah.
That sounds about right.
They had built like a good following at that point. And we were talking about the time, you know, getting into podcasting, which was sort of like the second wave of comedy podcasts, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And he was saying a thing that I realized I felt at the same time too, which was, I missed the boat. It's too late to start a podcast. You know, like I feel like at the time that we started this in 2015, I felt that way, where I was like, well, there are just too many podcasts now. And the ones that are successful, they got in early and they had a chance to, like, you know, make an impact and grow slowly. And then something like Serial, every once in a while there'll be a phenomenon. But, like, you know, the market's too diluted and there's not space for a new show right now. And Gilmore Guys had started a year earlier than us, and they felt the same way. Like, well, you know, we got in too late, but at least we're just doing this to have fun and whatever.
No more gates could be locked, essentially, is what you're saying.
Right, and now it's, I feel like now it's the thing that everyone says to me, where they're like, well, you guys are lucky you got in, like, just at the right moment. Mm-hmm. Like, you got in before it was too late. Now it's too late to start a podcast.
It's never too late.
It's never too
That's
late.
the point. Of course it isn't. Of course 5 years it will be crazier than it is now, in some way or another. But, yeah, these waves are kind of meaningless.
But when we got in in smart because it sounded good, crisp.
Okay, I mean,
It was
yes.
funny. It was informative.
It was
We
very
really made
educational,
something that was cool.
above all else. But it was also the key to it was conversations that we would have had for fun, irregardless. Despite the fact that the bit was so high concept at the beginning.
What bit?
It was the kind of bit. I'm sorry, the Smiths were so high concept at the beginning. No bits.
No bits, Prisoners.
Smiths is always going to be high concept. God damn it. In the Heights better come out. I'm sweating that one.
What does he sing? Good morning.
Good morning, Usnavi. I don't even want to parody it right now
Usnavi.
because I'm so worked up about this. But I know, not to speak out of turn, but I know people who have seen it and say it is fantastic.
Really?
And I just I want that movie. I mean, I know that, you know, movies will be eventually released, even if their release has to be delayed. But I'm just thinking about it right now.
Okay, this episode is topical. Can we pause the self-mythologizing? I'll stop my stream of
let's
hagiography.
pause that. Yeah.
Yes. Can we talk about the state of movies right now? Because I think it's an important thing for us to talk about.
I miss them so much. Like, I want nothing more than to just, like, go to a movie theater and not think about anything right now. And that's taken away right now, too, unfortunately. For the good of people. Obviously, it's important.
For the
that
good
we
of
don't
people.
do this
For the
right
good
now.
of people. But I was texting with Gabrus this morning, and he
Gabrus.
said to me, John Gabrus, friend of the show, past and future guest, humble brag, winky winky, and he said it's like the three things that I have to do for my mental health are gym, beach, movie theater. A slight variation, the Long Island version of gym tan laundry.
Right.
And I said to him, yeah, I relate, because for me it's movie theater, movie theater, movie theater.
Just different AMCs throughout Manhattan, and they're all fucked.
Yeah, and it's a little scary now, not just the fact that, okay, so movie theaters are off the table temporarily, because I understand that as a necessary move to ensure the future of humanity, but also that we are in this weird time where the question is, what will movie theaters look like whenever this ends, and how will viewing habits change and customer habits change? I don't know, it's weird. Yes. I mean, our podcast is not very often about current release films. We are rarely incentivizing people to go to the theaters. In a certain way, sure, our podcast is perfectly positioned for a time like this, where it's just assignments of things to watch at home.
That's true.
Not intentional, but we're people who love going to the fucking movie theater. Yep. We love seeing a talkie picture on a screen.
We loved
in a room
a
full of
movie.
Strangers. We loved a movie.
Loved the movies. Ben likes the movies.
Yeah, I like movies.
3 movie lovers and.
But I like joking about them a lot.
Yeah, you love joking about them. But it is this weird thing of just like, right, like something like Fast 9, right? My beloved Vin punted all the way to 2021. Yes, initial shock and sadness. But in the long term, I am happier to wait a year to see that movie properly than to have it drop on iTunes in like 2 weeks.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
iTunes for Fast would be so depressing.
In the Heights is the same thing.
Yeah.
Right, In the Heights is the same thing. There's this thing going around right now where people are like, oh, is this it? And it's sort of like, no, I don't think so. For one, you're going to not see studios releasing these, like Wonder Woman or whatever. Warner Brothers isn't going to release that because the potential profit of a movie release is still just on a whole other level.
It's
And
so
Also,
much
I
greater.
think once it's possible for people to gather in groups again, I know I personally am going to like stay the fuck outside when I can and go to crowded events once it is, deemed safe to do so.
Right. Like if Wonder Woman is the first movie to open when the movie theaters reopen, it's going to make so much goddamn money. Like people are going to want to communally gather in a space with strangers whose medical histories they don't know and watch that goddamn movie. Something like In the Heights, which we're all fucking amped for. Every time I saw that trailer in theaters, I got goosebumps, partially because of how good it looks and partially because you could feel the excitement of the other people in the theater going, oh my God, Jimmy Smits is walking into a bodega confidently, singing
Good Morning.
Usnavi.
Who's so named because he's named like after the U.S. Navy, right? I did see In the Heights.
I never saw it.
Okay, well, yeah, it's his parents when they arrived in America saw a ship with the sign U.S. Navy on it. That's why it's called Usnavi. Anyway, so we love movies. We don't want them to go away. We don't want Blank Check to go anywhere. Not that it's going anywhere. So we're here to celebrate his 5th anniversary. What are we doing, guys?
Well, we have some friends of the show who, in celebration of our 5th anniversary, have left us some voicemails and sent over some audio messages so we can listen to those. Some clips from past episodes we had posted on Reddit with suggestions for those. So you guys let me know. Perhaps maybe let's start with like a clip from a past episode. Does that sound fun?
Okay, let's open up the old clip bag.
Let's do it.
And for all this stuff, I'm trying to explain it as simply as possible. So there's some super nerds that might know that I'm avoiding some details or maybe simplifying some things.
Like sort of toppings on the pizza.
Yes. So here's some crazy shit we're going to get into.
Or pizza in the butthole.
The way film works, and this is now getting to Billy Lynn stuff. We're out of the film school stuff. Now this is me getting into what's crazy about Billy Lynn.
We're walking the walk.
The way Walking the Walk 2018, the way film works, people often say what allows a bunch of series of still images to create the illusion of motion is something called persistence of vision, which is the idea that like if you right now wave your hand in front of your face, you see that the image of your fingers is blurring. And that's considered persistence of vision, which is that the image sort of smears in your retina and in your brain. And so that helps you determine in what direction things are going, how motion's working.
Okay.
That's not true. That is not what dictates motion. That's not what makes cinema works. So now I'm going to get into some crazy stuff. So there's a bunch of these experiments that prove that this is not how it works.
Here comes the maraca section.
Oh my god.
David, you can't. Oh my God, this is.
Well, no,
if there's one podcast
You
to get
had
into
me
cinema,
with you're describing how cameras work, but now you're like, now let me upend to you the thought process.
We gotta talk vision,
All right,
baby.
go on.
So there's these famous experiments where you take an image of a red dot. It's a still image of red dot, no motion blur, nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and then you take that away and put up another image of a red dot in another location. Okay, if you go between those images, one to the other, and you start increasing the pace that you're going between the two, suddenly your brain starts to assume motion between them. And instead of it being one image of one circle here and another here, your brain goes, that circle's moving from here to here, back and forth, back and forth. And in the science experiments, they refer to this in a certain amount of hertz or a certain amount of milliseconds. I've sort of tried to transmutate it into frames per second. Okay.
Yeah.
So the frequency at which you do that it starts as being still images, and then let me get my exact.
Page 4.
Yep.
Welcome to the 5 Towers Club, by the way.
From 0.
Congrats.
Thank you. From 0 to 5 frames per second, it's just succession, 2 images. Then you get to partial movement where you get the sensation of things moving slightly. And then at around between 16 and 18 frames per second, which is really interesting, you have what's called beta movement. Okay?
Which is just like these like low testosterone.
Oh my god.
Sort of cuck movements.
Hey, Ben, can you open that envelope?
Oh my gosh.
This is like Neil Patrick Harris hosting the Oscars.
That's sort of why I did this.
Ben is opening the envelope.
What's it say on the front there?
Griffin will make a joke about beta movement.
And just open it up.
Fuck. This is amazing.
Beta cuck movement.
Okay.
I mean, the guy knows me. We're very good. Very old friends.
Oh my fucking god.
I just knew.
Jesus Christ.
I'm sorry. So, around 16 to 18 frames.
1,000 comedy points.
Thank
That
you.
really was a tour de force.
That was
Thank you. Listen, you know people.
Well, that's the funniest thing that will ever happen on this podcast.
But isn't it funny that moment, which is probably the funniest thing that'll ever happen on the podcast, is 3 minutes of JD talking in detail about like how the brain perceives movement and how it can be visually tricked, and then a joke, then the greatest joke ever.
Well, I think that's part of what makes it the greatest joke ever. I also
To be
want
clear,
to say
then a bad joke by you, and then the greatest joke.
Well, agree to disagree. I think it was a pretty perfect joke. I think it was a perfect joke, just like the perfect test and the perfect phone call. But part of the beauty of the joke, it's not that that's the funniest thing I've ever witnessed in my life, but it is the most beautifully executed joke I have ever witnessed. JD walks into the studio, is holding it in his hand, doesn't say anything. When we start recording the episode, which par for the course for us was probably 45 minutes after we all arrived.
Yeah.
And I probably arrived 30 minutes after everyone else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
At the very beginning of the episode, he hands you the envelope, Ben, and says, I just want you to take note of this envelope. I will tell you when to open it. And then the clip you just heard is like an hour into the episode.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, it maybe 45. It's deep-ish into the episode.
I mean, he lets it rest for a good long while before letting us execute his joke.
And like, what if he wasn't like? What if we didn't get around to talking about beta movement, whatever the fuck that? It's so funny that he's like, we're gonna get this deep. I promise.
Well, JD comes
coming
prepared.
in.
As we know, he comes in with a checklist of things that we have to discuss. But also, there's the moment there where I say, which is just like low testosterone. Excuse me, where I say it's like low testosterone movement. And then I take a beat, and JD just kind of stared at me in the room. And then I said cuck movement. I almost didn't say cuck movement. And it was because I got no response that I felt like I had to take another bite at the apple.
So JD was just like, I'm not rising to it until he says the word.
Well, he was the Svengali. He knew. He said, I can't force his hand.
Whereas it's amazing how you
I
can
need
hear
to let
me
this play out.
during the whole clip. I'm just like, oh God, JD's going too deep. This is too dry. I'm like, I'm being a pain. And then you make your joke and I'm like, for crying out loud, this thing's off the rails. Like, I am totally in grunt mode until he asks Ben to reach for the envelope.
Completely won back over.
Hearing you like react to it reminds me of another JD moment when you guys are describing the ending of Speed Racer where the crowd is just like losing their mind. That's David just going, oh my God, what am I about to witness? What is happening right now?
It felt like that. And I mean, I did feel like we were reeling after that. We had to continue doing the episode, but I was just so
I fell out of my chair.
Astonished by the jujitsu of it,
Yeah. And then we do talk for another like 90 minutes. Like, it's not like
Not only does he have to complete his entire lecture, but then we also have to get into Hack My Mac.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
It's such a good Blank Check episode because it is about a movie that no one talks about. It's about a movie that is special for reasons no one acknowledges, by a great artist, but not his great work.
Right.
Right? I don't know.
It also began a tradition.
Yeah. An annual walk.
Talk in the walk.
That walk.
Oh boy. I don't know what we'll do this year.
Talk and walk.
Who knows? I mean, look, let's say Bobby Zemeckis is now going on to the Elite Eight in March Madness. If he wins, then it's real easy for us. We just literally talk the walk.
Yeah, although his filmography is so goddamn long, we probably won't talk the walk till frickin', January or whatever. But yes, you're right.
But otherwise, yes, we're back to the drawing board. We have to figure out what the next walk is. I think JD sent in a voicemail as well where he talked about this, but I just want to say before we play that, and I'm not going to reveal what it is because he's been very adamant about this. JD texted me while you were playing the clip by pure coincidence. He's been has not left his apartment once in the last 10 days from self-quarantine. No. He was feeling pretty sick, I think, for a couple of days now on the mend, but is justifiably paranoid. He has been sending me different drafts. JD is determined to come up with a viral coronavirus tweet. JD is not on Twitter.
I don't recommend it. I don't.
Yeah, Ange went viral and she did not enjoy it.
No, I had to give my password to my sister because I can't log into my account anymore. It's bad. I'm only on Blank Check. Don't go viral right now. I'm sorry. Continue.
You should have said don't at me. That's the only mistake you made. You had a perfect tweet. It was a perfect tweet, just like the phone call and the test.
It's like when you ask someone if they're a cop. They have to tell you. If you say don't at me, they can't at you.
You should have just said don't at me, because you were correct.
Okay, but what did JD send?
COVID-19 the Widowmaker. JD has been sending me drafts of things that he wants to go viral. And he has been working hard on them. So I just want the listener to know, he said, I cannot give him credit for his thing, because he doesn't have a Twitter account. He's giving it to me. He wants to test the virality. But I just want the listener to know something I post probably within a week is going to be created by JD. I will never say what it is or isn't. That's all I want to say. Should we play the JD voicemail?
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Hello, Blank Check family. I'm JD Amato, and I love movies. Blank it, thank it, but don't touch each other because of the virus. I just want to send a quick message to congratulate the Blank Check team on their 5th anniversary. You all should be so proud of yourselves. That's such a phenomenal accomplishment. I am, of course, so appreciative of the fact that you've allowed me to be part of the podcast in small ways, but I'm more appreciative of the fact that you've all been such kind and wonderful friends to me over the years. It truly means the world. I'm currently in the midst of a doctor-mandated quarantine. Don't worry, I'm fine. But the time has allowed me to explore my old emails and find my first ever correspondences with each of you. So Ben, my first email with you was in 2015 when you were booking guests for the UCB Digital Podcast. I believe you had to cancel and then rebook, and it all worked out fine in the end. David, my first email from you was in 2014 when I sent you an unsolicited audio file of me giving my take on the current state of reality television at the time, and you responded about 12-hour day and avoided having to send an audio file back to me. Also, in looking through these emails, I came upon the following email from 5 years ago, from May 2015. The subject of the email was, "Help us with the final episode of our stupid podcast. Hey, David Sims and I have been recording a stupid podcast for the last couple months solely about Star Wars Episode 1, The Phantom Menace. The explicit goal of this podcast is to answer the question, what is The Phantom Menace about? And so far we've failed in that regard. Recording our final episode Wednesday, blah, blah, blah. Guys, it's 5 years later, and that wasn't your last episode. You did many more, and your podcast evolved into something completely different and completely wonderful. And speaking of evolution, I want to say that in life, a lot of things evolve and change and adapt over time, but also a lot of things stay the same. And those things that stay the same can be really grounding and really magical and give us a lot of joy, especially in times like this when so many things feel changing and new and strange and uncomfortable. It's nice to look back and see that there's certain things that never change and those things that are always true. And that brings me to my first ever email that I got from Griffin Newman. Griffin, the first email you sent to me 10 years ago, June 2010, is the following email. Subject line, Toy Story. Body of the email. Yo, here are the deets for tonight. Hope you can make it. You've got a friend in me, Griff. And I hope you know, 10 years later, you still got a friend in me, Griff. And to all of you, congratulations on 5 years. That's such a big accomplishment. On behalf of myself, many of your co-conspirators and fans, I say to you, blank you, thank you. And I'd like to end on a question. Now that 5 years have passed, do you think you've achieved your goal of answering the question, what is the Phantom Menace about? And if not, how many more years do you think it'll take you? I'll take my question off the air. Love you guys. Goodbye.
David, this is a very serious episode.
Okay, yes, that's true.
It's the 5th anniversary.
Yes, it's a very weighty, big deal.
It's weightier than the weight of water itself.
Mm-hmm.
And as I look back upon these years, I think about the sponsors who've helped us get this far.
Sure.
Brooklinen, one of our earliest sponsors.
One of our best.
A product that you and I both love.
I adore their product.
I adore it. I married it. I loved it so much, I married it.
Yeah.
It's not working out that great because
it's a bed sheet. But you shouldn't try and marry Brooklyn.
No.
You should just use it to buy wonderful luxury products at low prices. That's what it's for.
I love Rich and Vicky Fulop.
Yes, the husband and wife duo who founded Brooklyn.
I was going to get their name right in the third time. I love Rich and Vicky Fulop.
Yeah, I think you basically got it the second time. Yeah.
And they love each other. They're married. They started this company. Feels like it was born out of love.
Sure.
Love a good sheet.
Love and the desire to make, beautiful home essentials available to you for not the price of an arm and a leg.
Yeah, and here's the thing. I recently washed my Brooklinen sheets.
It happens.
Sink to the level of taking out my emergency third set of sheets that are not Brooklinen. And let me say, the thread count is pretty gosh darn low. And I went, what's the difference? It's fine. I've been sleeping on sandpaper, David.
It's no good. And
I've become a Brooklinen man, and there's no going back.
You should wash the Brooklinen constantly because it only improves them. They only get softer the more you wash.
Yeah, and you know what? Washing Brooklinen has now become my number one hobby. I do it for sport. I do it 4 times a day.
And I also have their loungewear.
Yeah.
I have their bath mats.
Comfy, cozy.
They're a direct-to-consumer bedding company. They work directly with manufacturers and directly with customers. There's no middleman, just a great product and service. And luxury products are being sold without the luxury markup.
I love it.
And you can get towels now. You can get shower curtains, ultra soft loungewear, silk eye masks, robes, furniture, art, and totes.
I
a lot.
I told you this. I recently made a mistake. I ordered a set of Brooklinen sheets and it came in the wrong size.
Sure.
Now, this was not because of any fault of their customer service. It was because I forgot what size my bed was.
Sure.
Guess what I did? I just put those oversized Brooklinen sheets on my bed. They're still good.
Yeah.
Even when they don't fit, they fit. You know what I'm saying?
I do. They're so confident in their product. All their sheets, comforters, loungewear, and towels come with a lifetime warranty.
I don't know if you knew that.
I don't know if the warranty covers you ordering the wrong thing.
Well, you can find out.
I should check it out.
Brooklinen.com is the perfect place to start making small changes that make big differences. They're so confident products. They all comes with a lifetime warranty. Make yourself comfortable and get 10% off your first order and free shipping when you use promo code CHECK only at brooklinen.com. That's BROKLINEN.com, promo code CHECK. It's Brooklinen, everything you need to live your most comfortable life.
Great voicemail from JD Amato there.
Genuinely made me a little emotional. Got a little choked up there.
Griffin, why did you send him an email about Toy Story? Do you think you were going to see it?
That was the weekend that Toy Story 3 was coming out, and I went at the Ziegfeld RIP, one of the all-time great movie palaces. They did a marathon screening of all 3 movies back to back to back. And so at the end of that marathon... Great joke, 5 comedy points. But at the end of that marathon, you got to see Toy Story 3 earlier than anyone else. And I invited JD because we were in an improv class together at that time at the UCB Theater, a company that's never done anything wrong. Anyway, JD has been one of our great friends of the show. That first email he read was us asking him to send in a voicemail for that final Phantom Menace episode, because we just thought...
episode 10 or whatever.
Let's just get all the people we wish we had gotten on this show. We didn't really have many guests on the Phantom Menace podcast. It was the next miniseries where we started bringing people on, and JD came on the show for the first time.
Right.
And our good friend Rachel Lang.
Chase Mitchell, some of the old pals.
Morgan Evans was in that one, I think.
Yeah, didn't Drucker do... I can't remember if he did episode 2 or 3.
Sonia Saraya. I mean, people started entering the fray. But we had zero... No, we had one guest. Connor Ratliff was the only guest for Phantom Podcast.
Is that true?
I think so. Am I wrong about that?
I think you're probably right. I don't remember. But
it was one of the things that certainly helped the show evolve as we opened it up to other people and developed our sort of stable of friends and regulars. As the show's evolved, the thing that we've, that we didn't plan, but that we've tried to acknowledge and hold on to is the show being this weird middle ground between like pop culture criticism and comedy podcast. As people who are fans of both of those things, and us coming from our respective backgrounds, but also having interest in the other's worlds. One of the things that's fun, I think, is having people on the show who come from comedy backgrounds and allowing them to talk more seriously and not feeling like they need to make a joke every 2 seconds, and having people who are serious film critics on and allowing them to be funny and not making them feel like they have to weave some elegant tapestry. Not everyone can be the poet laureate. Not everyone can be our finest film critic. Ben has both of those roles on lockdown. So someone like Sonia can come on our show, and she's one of the best writers out there, but she can also do stupid bits with us.
Should we play another clip?
Well, we didn't answer his question at the end.
Oh, right. Oh, yeah. I feel like we fully know what the Phantom Menace is about at this point. Griffin, do you agree with me? Or am I being crazy in saying that?
No, I think I have an answer. Do you want to say it? I'm curious if ours line up.
I want to hear yours first.
Say it at the same time on 3.
No.
Here's my very short, reductive answer. It's about how blind arrogance destroys societies.
Yeah. No, we have the same answer, yes.
Right?
Right. Yeah. It's about, I mean, it's weird how the sequels that George Lucas had no involvement in were clarifying in this regard. But yes, it is about you're watching an empire crumble under its own, what's it called?
Decadence.
Arrogance, but there's a word. Hubris. There we go.
Hubris. Yes.
But I think, honestly, in light of, sort of the recent movies, I really do feel like it's about, that Palpatine fucks.
It is about that. He
forces
consciousness. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's funny. I mean, at one point in time, we thought what we were going to do for this 5th anniversary was reassess the Phantom Menace, but with context.
Right.
That was our idea, was talk about it as a Star Wars movie, since we never did that on the show.
I thought that would have been fun, but then you decided there's been too much Star Wars talk of late, which is not inaccurate.
Right, I stand by it, but it is one of those things that I think you and I are both slightly warmer on all three of those prequel movies than we are in those episodes because of the thought experiment of pretend the other movies don't exist. The affection comes from the way that they're in conversation with the others, even if those movies are not wholly successful.
The bit was stupid. We should have acknowledged the other movies. What a waste of a year.
Well...
Part of like the response on Reddit is we had a question, so maybe I'll pose this to the group. Do you guys want to maybe talk about what your least favorite episodes are and what you would have done differently if given a time machine? And also, what are some of your favorite eps?
I mean, I said the ones I like the least. I'll tell you the 2 episodes I'll give you the time machine on. I think, and I've said this before, I think we were really ungenerous to Ahmed Best in our Jar Jar episode. Yeah. I think we were very much following the same line of attack that everyone else was following and putting a lot of the blame on him, which was not fair, especially in light of how much he's opened up about how difficult that process was for him after the release of the film. And the other obvious one is, but it's one of those hindsight's 2020, we literally did not know that Lulu Wang was going to get pulled out of that episode.
Oh, yeah.
That episode is tough for me to re-listen to because I feel the same anxiety that probably our listeners feel, where you go, God, she only has 20 minutes left. Why are you asking her about interviews? And the answer is, we thought we had 2 hours. It's no one's fault.
Well, it was one person's fault, but that's okay.
It was one person's fault. We're not going to name her. We don't even know that person's name. But
I know her name, but it's no big deal. But
Lulu's
you're right
the
about
best,
that.
And hopefully we'll have her on at some other point.
Oh,
I thought we had a really good conversation with her. I thought our Nausicaa talk afterwards.
We should do this with her.
We could.
Sure.
I mean, look, silver lining of Skype, maybe we'll have more West Coast guests on the show in the next couple of months.
Yeah.
Who knows?
Who knows? I'm trying to think of any episodes I don't like. I feel like we talk. I mean, I don't like the Fantastic Four episode. I already said that whenever we did a retrospect before. I like all the episodes. What's a bad episode of Blank Check? There's no such thing.
I'll say I would go back and not lose my phone and fall on the ground when we recorded that episode with Dana.
You lost your phone, and of course, right? Yes, yes. You were very late. You were right.
Yes, it was incredibly late. Yeah. I recall David saying, "I thought you were dead."
Yes, I did say
we
that.
thought
to
you were dead.
That was maybe a little harsh of me, but it had crossed my mind.
That was not good. I didn't like that. I sprained my ankle severely. It was a whole thing.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
That was a day.
Yes, I forgot. I forgot that was that episode. Yes.
Was there like a director you guys were kind of like tired of doing at a certain point? Like,
oh, sure, Burton. I can
Yeah,
answer that
that's
right
the
away.
obvious answer.
Yeah, Burton.
quick.
I will say I didn't totally feel this way, but I remember a little bit of exhaustion with Spielberg by the end. That was at the time definitely the longest we'd ever done.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that was just because it was twice as long as any miniseries we had done up until that point. There was so much variety in that career, and he has bangers at the very end. Yeah.
Those bangers at the end rule.
I think Spielberg's interesting because like I love our Warhorse episode and I love Catch Me If You Can. I think we have some like really good episodes in there. I still could not tell you one thing about Steven Spielberg. He's like an enigma. Besides, like, he's just good at his job. Whereas, like,
he knows where to put the camera, and he wishes his dad was nicer to him.
Well, that's what's weird. I mean, he's one of those paradoxes where his films are so weirdly revealing and also so weirdly impersonal at the same time. There, in certain ways, he's telling you everything about himself, and in other ways, you feel like you don't know him at all.
Yeah, he's a funny one.
He's kind of like Jerry Seinfeld in that sense.
Yeah, I think he's less weird on balance, but yes, I know what you mean.
You know, Ange brought up our Warhorse episode. I actually have a clip.
Oh, a clip from Warhorse.
Perfect segue.
perfect
Old
transition.
friend Pilot Virowitz.
Right. The first 3 minutes of the film feel like 15 minutes, and it's a series of sequences totally silent of Jeremy Irvine watching this horse be born, grow, prance around, you know, achieve full size.
So creepy.
Very
Weird.
creepy. Very fucking creepy.
Okay, but here's my first problem with the movie.
Yeah.
So first pivotal scene is an auction.
Yep.
Peter Mullen, great actor.
Great
plays-
director too.
Good director. Plays Jeremy Irvine's dad.
Drunky Mick Drunkenness.
Yeah. Old drunk farmer.
Drunky-o drunkery.
Farmer Booze.
Yep.
And then David Thewlis plays like Lord Evil, like the mustache and sideburns only, land baron or whatever.
Baron Persnickety.
Yeah. And he's like, I shall have that horse, £1 million, please. And Peter Mullen, not Jeremy Irvine, is
Yes.
like, £1,001,000. Like he like dares defy his lord
Right.
to outbid him. What does he care about the horse? He just like briefly falls in love with the horse and then quickly wants to shoot the horse in the face.
I mean, he probably feels like his son isn't gonna find like anyone else, so like he better
saying
like
he's being
support
a
this
wingman?
relationship. Yeah.
But when he brings the horse back to Jeremy Irvine acts like, wow, this horse, I've never seen this horse before. Like he doesn't own up
he's
to.
like, oh, cool horse. Yeah,
Oh,
no, it's a good horse.
Yeah.
Good horse. I'm gonna call him Joey. I'm gonna make a special owl call for him.
I'm definitely enjoying. I'm enjoying meeting this horse for the first time. I haven't spent weeks upon weeks watching this horse from its birth. The implication, I guess, is that David Thewlis is the evil land
Yeah,
baron.
but he's not even evil. He's just a dick.
He's just a
And
guy.
he's like, there's a fuckable horse, and what purpose does a fuckable horse have if not just to hang out in like a fancy manor
Right.
and be ridden around by rich people and not do much and eat hay?
Maybe do some dressage.
Yeah, do a little dressage. Yeah, be like a dancing horse.
Sure.
Right?
Yes.
Right, exactly.
Well, look.
A silly horse.
Look at this auction, okay? What does David Thewlis have to gain from owning the horse, right? He's a rich man. He could just put the horse up in a
and
nice
his
stable.
son is kind of like,
right.
I mean, it's okay. His son's not even that into the horse.
But the idea is that it would be a show
How
horse.
many times are we going to say horse?
We're gonna say it so much. And
That
we
episode
did.
is funny.
Yeah.
Can I say that MP3 file is called Fuckable Horse?
It's funny because we usually are very charitable to movies that, like we come in with like sort of like trying to find the things we like in them, even if they're bad.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's a movie that a lot of people really love. And it's a movie that is not my favorite, but certainly has got a lot going on. But we just came in, we were like, Jesus, guys. We really just wanted to take it to town, take it to the glue factory.
It's one of those things like Master Builder was a similar thing where sometimes it's just like the mood we're in, how deep we are in the filmography, the guest we have, just the alchemy of all those things. It just becomes, I think you've always clarified, David, over and over again that this is not a bad movie podcast, that we've tried to avoid that. No disrespect to bad movie podcasts, but there are too many of them out there, and we felt like we don't want to be just another one. And so a lot of times people will suggest things to us. You have to do an emergency episode on Doolittle. And we just go it's
funny.
not right. Yeah, I mean, look, we could have boarded the ship with Doolittle.
Look,
We might
let's
have
do a
missed our
Doolittle
journey.
episode.
We're doing a Doolittle episode, and actually George
Right
Miller is
now.
canceled, and we're doing a Stephen
might as
Gagan
well.
miniseries. We got it. Never mind. All plans out the window. But the point is, like, anytime there's a calamity, we don't feel the need to discuss it, and we don't want to cover someone's film career largely because their movies are bad. But every once in a while, it's fun to have fun with a movie. And something like War Horse is just, it's pretty easily mockable. It's called War Horse, and it's about a horse that everyone wants to fuck.
Ben, do we have a Matrix clip?
Yeah.
You know, as a 14-year-old, I was looking for a sequel to The Matrix that made me feel the way The Matrix did, right?
Yeah, and it's a good question. What did we want this movie to be? I think that's a fair question,
I was
right?
trying to watch this and figure that out. I was trying to think, what was I expecting out of this film? Because I look at the trailers and they get me excited, and I still don't know what I think it's promising.
Yeah.
And I realized I sat
It's
down in that
really
theater.
hard to imagine what it could have been, like in a more sort of
That's the thing.
nominally like commercial sequel.
I think I sat down in the theater and had no idea what I actually wanted. I wanted to be as surprised as I was watching The Matrix the first
hard
time.
to do.
That's the thing.
Right.
You know, I mean, that's what's tough is it's not just like, oh, The Matrix is really good. Like,
Yeah.
you see something like Guardians of the Galaxy and you're like, good, make a sequel.
Yeah, just like can I have more of these guys
Fun
palling
characters,
around.
they joke, they fight aliens. Good. Easy to make a sequel.
Right. I don't need the sequel to explain like the world of Guardians of the Galaxy in like extreme depth.
I don't need bigger picture mythology.
I need like there's a couple of villains, there's a MacGuffin,
right,
and then at the end there's a big fight. But I get it. It's not going to be fucking Shakespeare
joke
over
and
here.
some pop songs, and it's like
nice pop songs.
I don't know if the movie's going to work, but I know there's a clear roadmap that a 6-year-old could tell you is what Guardians of the Galaxy 2 should be.
In basketball, is when you're drafting players. No, it's okay. It's very brief. You talk
like in draft day.
Yes, but
Okay.
basketball.
Can you put it in those terms?
Well, sure. In football, it's probably similar in football.
Okay.
You talk about a player's ceiling when you're drafting them, right? So it's like you see a player in college, and you might say he's good right now. He's probably gonna just be this.
Yeah.
He'll be good. And then you see another player, and you're like, look, I get that he's rough around the edges. But we know from like doing this for years that he's got the kind of skills that if you develop them right, he could be a megastar.
Sure.
So like the ceiling is very high, but it's a more high risk thing. So that's kind of what The Matrix is, right? Like a sequel to The Matrix is a high ceiling. You could make something incredible.
Yeah.
Like talk about a world where you can do anything.
Yeah.
Guardians of the Galaxy, you know what you're gonna get.
Well, and
that sums it up, right? The little noises I just made.
Yes, 100%.
Sure.
Yeah. But something, I don't know. With this, you just go like, I don't even know what the paradigm shifted so much in the wake of this movie that I don't know what I want out of it. And it's also this weird, like, you can't go home again thing where the Matrix is a hero's journey. It's someone coming to their position. It's a new character entering into the world.
Yeah.
Right?
You know what this movie is? It's like a total subversion of the hero's journey. Man, that's why it's so good.
Okay, so
I would have. All right, I think I know what I wanted.
No. So
or
Ben,
what I would have
your
done,
experience,
maybe.
I believe, was also seeing this at the time, but you did not rewatch it. You told me.
I did not.
Yeah, no,
I didn't have time.
you didn't. Okay,
we're
okay,
doing
gotcha.
these episodes very close together, and I don't think we can really reasonably expect Ben to have to watch everything.
We're doing 3 in a row. Yeah.
Oh, so anyway, I left and I was just like, those were a lot of keys. That was my takeaway.
Now, Ben, you like size. But
I
do you
do.
like quantity, or is that less important to you? Because it's a lot of
when
keys.
it's an impressive amount of keys, I'm on board.
So did you find the
So
keymaker's
abundance.
set of keys to be an impressive amount of keys?
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of keys.
I was like, that was a
I
fucking
think
lot
he
of
has
keys.
2 layers of clothes that are covered in keys. He's got like an outer and inner vest.
Can I ask a very serious question? Can I ask a very serious question?
Yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Has Ben become our finest living film critic?
Look, what if it was like USA Today and there's like a picture of Ben like leaning with it against his fist, and it's just like The Matrix Reloaded, and it's just like those were a lot of keys. It's an important moment.
And historic moment, and a thing that listeners asked for to give more backstory, to go down memory lane of how some of those nicknames came to be. But that was a big one. It did feel like, if I can do a little a Ben Hosley tribute here for a moment, if you'll so amuse me. It's still 5 years into this show. I don't fucking know if I get the guy, but I am constantly falling in love over and over again. And that
that's
keys
really sweet,
moment
Griff.
is another perfect one where it's just like, where did that come from? It's both. It's to quote the storytelling principle. It's surprising but inevitable. And he truly is our finest film critic. And I also think our listenership would be a lot more limited if not for Ben being a presence on the mic. As much as you, Ben, always say, it's not my job. If you guys are on a roll, I'm not going to butt in. The show's about you. I've had so many people say, or even just read people write, I'm not as big a fan as you guys are. I don't watch all the movies. The level of shit you guys know is actually kind of off-putting to me. Ben is the way that I'm able to get into the show. The fact that there's someone there in the room who has a normal person's knowledge of all these subjects, and is both so funny, but also can sort of function as an audience surrogate. I think it's not the special sauce. It's the bun. It's the bread that holds the sandwich together.
Ding dong.
Oh, who's at the door?
Well, we'll check.
Yeah.
Boo.
Who's this crying person?
Boo. No one likes me anymore.
Who is it?
Yeah, it's me, Chef Boyardee.
Oh boy. How you doing, chef?
Not so good.
All right, pull yourself together.
Okay, sorry.
Jeez. Come on.
It's been a rough run of things.
Why? What's going on?
And no one likes my not fresh pasta in a can.
Yeah, it's not the best. I'm sorry to
They
say.
have to walk outside to a store, pick it up, bring it back home, and the pasta is not fresh.
It's not. I'm sorry. It's really not very fresh. It's not what people are after.
That's
right
the way
now.
I like it. I thought when people like it, the things that aren't fresh.
No. In fact, people like to have over 22 seasonal chef curated recipes sent to their homes every week by a great company like HelloFresh.
Sent to their homes, but I thought people like going to the supermarket and waiting online for a while.
I mean, the supermarket's fine, but HelloFresh has more 5-star recipes than any other meal kit. They've got something for everyone. They've got low-calorie recipes. They've got vegetarian recipes, family-friendly recipes every single week to pick from.
And I essentially have one recipe that I work into different shapes.
Yeah, right. Look, you've got your thing going.
It was working for a long time. You have to give me credit. I had a pretty
you're
good
doing
run there.
fine.
I'm not doing fine. Seriously, the stock is way down.
Well, it's a tough time right now.
That's true, actually. Thank you for the perspective.
But HelloFresh cuts out stressful meal planning and prepping so you can enjoy cooking and get dinner on the table in about 30 minutes, even 20 minutes if you pick a quick recipe option.
And is the food good for you?
And if you think about it, the average trip to the grocery store takes 41 minutes.
Oh, don't bring that.
I'm sorry. I just had to point it out. Yes, it's very good for you. They're pre-portioned ingredients. It means there's less prep for you. There's less food waste. There's a carbon footprint that's 25% lower than store-bought grocery-made meals. And the packaging is almost entirely made from recyclable or already recycled content. So not only is it good for you, it's good for planet Earth.
Okay, well,
Sorry.
you don't have to hit a man when he's down.
Well, aluminum cans also, they're basically fully recyclable. So,
A can of Chef Boyardee is also pre-portioned. The portion is not enough to make you feel less hungry. It's just, I don't know if you've ever tried it. It's always just not
It's
enough.
been a long time. I have to be honest with you.
Well, maybe you're part of the problem then.
And for HelloFresh, very, very flexible. You can change your delivery days or food preferences very easily. You can skip a week whenever you need. I have been cooking with HelloFresh. It comes right to my door.
Humble brag.
I do appreciate that the packaging is really easy to get. Some of these, sometimes the packaging can be a bit much with these services. HelloFresh, I feel like, makes a big effort on that front.
Yes, and my cans cut your fingers
They
up
do.
when
They
you
do.
open them.
Look, they do. It's scary. Sharp blades,
Yes.
Listen to this. Creamy, Parmesan, chicken, spaghetti. That's 4 things everyone can agree on. Creamy, Parmesan, chicken, spaghetti. It's all in one recipe. And it's a quick one. Lightning prep. It only took me like half an hour to make it.
And can I share a recipe of mine very quickly? Yeah. It's a Paw Patrol macaroni in a microwavable cup.
All right. So go to HelloFresh.com/10check and you can use code 10check for 10 free meals, including free shipping. Okay? HelloFresh.com/10check. Use code 10check for 10 free meals, including free shipping.
And I have a special promo I would like to share with your listeners.
Go ahead.
If you go out, spend 40 minutes traveling to the supermarket to get the can of Chef Boyardee, special promo for your listeners, you can send me in the mail a check for $10.
All right. That sounds great.
My profits are down. I just need to raise extra money somehow.
It's going to be all right.
So just please buy a can and then send me $10 out of goodwill.
But I just need to restate at all times, it is really not a bit. Even if you know that what you're about to say is funny,
Yeah.
these are actual thoughts and opinions you have. You're choosing to share them and frame them within a comedic context.
Mm-hmm.
But hanging out with Ben off microphone is pretty similar to hanging out with Ben on microphone.
Yes.
Correct.
I want to weigh in on that clip from a different perspective, which is it reminded me that we did those Matrix episodes very close together.
Yeah.
Remember that? And we had to cut the third one short because Shannon O'Neill was outside basically banging on the door saying, like, get the fuck out. I got to record my show.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
And so anytime anyone's like, oh, they've already talked about The Matrix, like, we had to rush the end of the third episode. There's still plenty to say, guys. There's still plenty more
I will say
keys.
this, too. I watched The Matrix a couple weeks ago with a friend who had never seen The Matrix before, an experience I've been searching for a little bit, to see someone enter The Matrix now.
Who hadn't seen The Matrix?
My friend Lexi, who now has. But even watching it with her, I was like, ugh, I would do a much better Matrix episode today than I did 5 years ago.
100%.
Both in terms of just being a better podcaster, knowing what our show is. The fact that Matrix episode was presumably like 90 minutes long is insane to think about now. Anytime we cover an episode, a movie that culturally big, the episode tends to be 5 hours. But also I just feel like Matrix is one of those perfect cultural objects in that it's a perfectly made film that somehow only gets better relative to whatever's going on in the world. It is speaking to such universal truths that whatever shifts in society, somehow Matrix reflects it in some interesting way. So it'd be interesting to talk about them again, and maybe if the fourth movie ever gets finished, we'll go back and we'll do them on Patreon.
Hell yeah. So I thought we could play another message from our mother, Emily Yoshida.
Hello, Griffin. Hello, David. This is Emily Yoshida, a.k.a. the mother of Blankies, calling in from Hollywood, California. It's a gorgeous day out here in sunny LA today. I just finished punching up a third act issue, and, maybe I'll take a walk around and pick a coconut off a tree or something. I don't know. Something like that. Well, Hollywood has changed me, as I'm sure you've noticed. But I still remember my roots. I'll never forget recording a podcast with you, sweating in a closet while Griffin had the flu, or that other time recording a podcast with you, sweating in a closet while Ben had the flu, or maybe you might have been hungover or something. I can't remember. So, in these challenging times, I'd just like to thank the Blank Check podcast personally for collectively strengthening my immune system. Also, while I have you, would love to circle back sometime regarding my treatment for the feature film Untitled Bambino Project. I think it would make a really exciting addition to the Blank Check slate, and I'm pretty sure the Borgata would let us shoot there at a discount. So hit me back whenever you're able. Would love to hop on the phone, on a Zoom, whatever you're comfortable with, grab some Joe virtually. I'd love to make this happen. I think it's a story that needs to be told well. Happy 200, boys. And to all Blankies, happy 200. Mother loves you very much. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
I miss Emily. I mean, she just stayed at my house for a week, like a month ago or whenever that was, but I still miss her.
And we got an episode banked up. We have Yoshida's return to New York all saved up. No Skype or Zoom necessary.
Yeah, of course she's a great friend of the show, but also, right? I mean, she's basically on episode 0. That is, the second fucking what's it called? Force Awakens episode. That was sort of the beginning of everything. That
was the beginning of us thinking we were Blank Check. I mean, essentially rebranding the podcast, and also outside of judging the judge, and the Podcastic Four, one of which is good, one of which is not. That was really the first episode where we were dropping the high concept shit, and the show was loose and fun, and I think kind of established the tone that we would have going forward. So not only did she name our listeners, but she also really helped us figure out what the show was as we kept moving. I mean, there are a couple people who really Ben and Todd obviously are responsible for giving us the chance to even do this in the first place. and Emily really helped form the show. But the two other people who we credit a lot, but they deserve all the credit in the world, who I think are responsible for you and I being friends, David, are Alyssa Stanoa, who didn't even know this until I DM'd her recently to say, hey, have I ever, did you ever realize that you're the only reason David and I are friends and have been doing a podcast together for 5 years? Three Busy Debras coming to Adult Swim soon. And Pilot Viruet on the Warhorse episode. They are the one
trivia.
Who invited you to trivia, and if not for trivia, we probably never would have started hanging out as much as we did, and we never would have developed the rapport that has lasted us these 5 long years.
Trivia and the short running time of the Bling Ring, I would say. Yeah.
That saved us, really. If the Bling Ring had been 220, this podcast might not have ever existed.
I would have gotten that text as we were leaving the theater. I would have been like, "Oh, Pilot texted me 40 minutes ago saying to go to forget it." Instead we were like, "You know what? Let's do it."
I don't know if we've ever talked about this either in the many times that we remythologize our beginning. But when you got the text from Pilot saying, "Do you want to come to this movie trivia night?" We were at a different trivia night.
We were. I think we have talked about it. We were at a bad trivia. We went to a bar to get a drink, and they just plopped a trivia, question, a piece of paper in front of our faces.
And you went, "Do you want to stay?" And I went, "Yeah, I like trivia. We should do this." And you went, "Okay, let's stay." And we stayed for
But it was
for
like,
half
what's the
a
capital
round.
of Bolivia? Yeah, it was not like particularly involved trivia.
But I mean, the sliding doors, if we had stayed there at that trivia night, maybe we'd be hosting Pod Save America instead, Oh
boy, we'd be telling Mr. Trump that the line is here and you will not cross it. I don't know. Isn't that what they do now?
Is not a good president.
I haven't listened to Pod Save America in quite a while.
I'm gonna say it. That guy's gotta shape up or ship out, and I mean it. I've had it up to here with Mr. Trump.
Let's not start any more podcast beefs.
Yeah.
Ben, do we have another clip?
We do. Well, I thought we could just play a few moments with Chris Gethard, and we also have a really great moment from Miyazaki's miniseries where David Rees, I think, really blew everybody away with his assessment of Spirited Away.
The stepfather of Blankies himself.
That's true. All right, so we're going to get into some of those clips now.
All right. Okay, here we go. This is good. Matthew Wood as General Grievous.
Fail.
Now you wanted to talk about
for
him.
this one. What a fucking piece of shit character. What a pile of shit performance. What an insulting to everybody's fucking intelligence, both intellectually and emotionally speaking. What a fucking train wreck character, skittering around on the floor like a little fucking jerk when you're supposed to be this person everybody's chasing. How did this person rise to prominence in any army? Why are the Jedi so obsessed with getting this bumbling fool that can't do anything right? None of it makes sense. The performance is deplorable. I hate it. I hate everything about General Grievous.
I mean, 3 fails here, no question. I'm also going to give him my LVP. I'm going to give him my award for least valuable player.
I
Absolutely.
didn't give out a most valuable player. I don't know who I'd give it to. I guess I'm going to have to think about that. It might be Sam Jackson.
Anyway,
that's a strong
As what? As your MVP?
Yeah, I'm wondering who the MVP is.
Yeah, I got mine.
All right, so I think this might be it. Is it Ben Cook as Kit Fisto?
Ding, ding, ding. Kit Fisto is the shit. Did you sense from the Chiari Mundi Plo Kloon obsession
Yeah,
that
I got it. I got that.
is there a character in these movies that you see less of, that you want more than Kit Fisto? In the second one, in the third one, give me my Fisto. What's the deal? He looks cool, acts cool. Everything about Kit Fisto's fucking cool. Carries this film. Absolute MVP. Without the keystone that is Kit Fisto, this whole movie crumbles. Kit Fisto is by far. You get this sense. I could tell you, I saw Kit Fisto for roughly 4 seconds in this film. Here's what I know. Kit Fisto, Jedi Master, yeah, but probably on the younger side, probably on the more rebellious side, goes off and does Kit Fisto's thing a little too often for the Jedi Council's comfort, but gets things done his own way. Maybe doesn't need the clones as much as others. Maybe he's one of the ones that's voiced some discontent about Why are we relying on this? Because it's easy. That's never been our way. Kit Fisto is someone who gets out in the field, does his own thing. Kit Fisto doesn't care if he needs to go undercover, clandestine for months, even years at a time. Kit Fisto gets the job done. Maybe Kit Fisto doesn't play nice with others. Maybe Kit Fisto doesn't get along with everybody all the time. He doesn't play the politics. He doesn't play the game. He goes and he gets it done like a Jedi. Kit Fisto, MVP, now, always, Ciroc.
Wow. Just to clarify for you guys, he's the guy with the green dreadlocks.
He's got big black bug eyes.
Big bug eyes.
And dreadlocks.
In the second movie, I think he pushes someone over, a
In that
droid
battle,
over,
in that
and
big
he's got
battle.
like
but he's
six
running
fingers.
like a motherfucker. When they go inside that big stadium that's very convenient for the fucking battle, he's running like, I'm going to fuck shit up, and he's psyched that he gets to do it. Kit Fisto seems, you know what it seems like? Like every Jedi Master has a stretch before he's a Master where he just gets real into the fact that he can fuck shit up. And I get the sense that Kit Fisto is right in that phase. He hasn't settled down yet. It's not about wisdom. It's about fucking shit up.
And talk about tragedy, cut down the prime of his life. I mean, you're saying this is a man with only potential ahead of him.
My guess is that if you, if I would have to, because I'd have to imagine that these Jedi as individuals are legendary characters, like baseball players or basketball players are to us when we're kids. And I have to imagine, I don't think Kit Fisto's the LeBron James. That's probably Yoda.
Yeah,
right?
sure, right.
And then you got Kevin Durant is probably Mace Windu.
Yeah.
Ki-Adi-Mundi is probably...
I think he's DeMarcus Cousins.
He's like a DeMarcus Cousins.
Wait, how the fuck did you do this? You're talking about basketball.
Yeah, DeMarcus
wait,
Cousins.
who's your Kit Fisto then? He's like an Iguodala?
Westbrook.
Oh, that's great.
Kit Fisto is Westbrook all day.
Yeah.
All day.
He just brings the
Tell
thunder.
me that doesn't make sense.
No, it makes total sense. It
Kit
makes total
Fisto
sense. He's
is the
someone who
Jedi
approaches
Russell
his job
Westbrook.
with joy and energy and fury.
And he's a wrecking ball.
Yeah.
But that being, it's like, but here's the thing, like,
but he needs to be pulled back sometimes.
and a surprisingly high assist rate.
Yeah, you know.
Like,
of
you
course.
think he's a wrecking ball and a ball hog, but guess what? Serge Ibaka is not hitting corner threes without Westbrook going 1-on-4 and drawing all the attention.
But
Kit Fisto enters situation. You know what he is? He's responsible Anakin.
Yeah.
So you think maybe they should have just invested the Anakin money right in Kit Fisto?
I want to see a movie about Kit Fisto.
Do you want to see it with
Big
Ki-Adi-Mundi and Plo Koon?
Yeah, I
Maybe
want
the three of them hanging out?
Tell me you wouldn't watch a movie
Of
where
course
the
I'd watch
three
that
of them
movie.
were
Are you kidding me?
Jedi Wrecking Crew. Those are the three everybody wants to see.
So do you want to know something interesting about Ben Cook, who plays
Plo
Kit
Koon
Fisto?
is like the Snake Eyes from G.I. Joe.
Yeah.
He's Snake Eyes.
Uh-huh.
Now, I just want to show you. Here's a picture of
tell
Ben
me
Cook.
everything.
Here he is.
That's
what
the
does that
guy
guy
from
look like to you?
Yellowstone?
Who does he look like to
Jason
you?
Statham.
Guess who he is?
Jason Statham's stunt double?
Boom.
Oh my god!
He plays Jason Statham.
He's Jason Statham's stunt double in like so many movies.
Wow,
This
man.
dude, for the
And
listeners
he is
at
a
home,
fight coordinator in a lot of movies.
Are
splitting
other
image.
people obsessed with Kit Fisto?
Yes.
Oh yeah, I think Kit Fisto is a real because look at his look. You know,
The best.
There's like a big Kit Fisto following
I'm really
online.
glad.
Is there any place I can get more info on Kit Fisto?
Wikipedia.
Wikipedia will tell you lots about Kit Fisto.
And are there comic books and shit?
I think so.
Do we know?
I
Yeah,
think- I
there's
think-
expanded
I think
universe Kit
there's
Fisto.
a lot
I
of
want to
expanded
read
universe.
all
Now,
the Kit
we're
Fisto.
basically done, but there are two
Come on, we're not done. We're just
performances.
getting started. We just got the Fisto.
There are two
It's
performances
a great
I really
name,
want
too.
to highlight.
Kit. Single syllable, strong. Kit. It's not like Plakvar or one of these dumb fucking Busby, whatever these fucking dumb George Lucas names are. His name's not Plakvar or Busby. It's Kit. Fisto.
Oh my God.
Fisto. He's a Jedi. He's a fighter. It makes sense. Even Plo Koon is pushing. Ki-Adi-Mundi, rad name. Plo Koon, right on the edge.
Yeah.
Kit Fisto, tell me more.
I think this is a record of someone having an encounter with the sublime.
Yes, right.
Yes.
Right? Which I
Yes.
think this movie, there's a lot about this movie I don't understand, and there's
Yeah.
a lot about this movie that's opaque to me. But
Same
I
here.
understand how someone could watch this movie and just feel like this is on a whole different level. You know,
Yes.
there's something about it that is just, I don't know if it's the dream logic or it's just some of those incredible images, you know, but it's just like, this is 6 out of 5 stars.
Yeah, I also think the key difference is I have had encounters with the Sublime that I completely understand would not connect for most people.
Right.
But I watched Spirited Away and I'm like, this movie is capturing the Sublime for 2 hours.
Yeah.
Even if I am not as in on it as perhaps Nigel is,
Right.
which let me say, I think this movie's great. I think it's a masterpiece. I love it. I feel like I need to watch it 8 more times. It was weird to me not having seen it since 2002. when I would run it in my head, I'd be like, I barely remember any of that movie. And as I watched it, everything was
You're like, oh, I
there.
do actually remember this.
Right.
Like every element, suddenly I was like, wait, I know the score. I know the images.
Pretty much the greatest score.
The score is pretty incredible.
Yeah.
But I was like, I had no sort of recall in my head before rewatching it, and all unfolded like this experience of, I feel like very often I wake up and I don't remember my own dreams.
Right.
And then something happens over the course of the day.
And you go back. Yeah, totally.
And suddenly the entire dream comes flooding back to me.
Yeah.
And it's very emotionally overwhelming.
Yeah,
where I'm like, right, in my dream, someone held my hand. And now that someone has held my hand in real life, I'm remembering this dream where I was in like the fires of hell.
Getting your hand held.
Right.
Wow.
Sorry, retired bit. Whatever the thing is, right? And watching this felt like that, where I'm like emotionally overwhelmed with the idea of this thing that was sort of like buried deep in my unconscious, which I had not connected with before.
Right.
Had no emotional connection to the last time I saw it. Now suddenly having this like tremendous weight and feeling like it was like this unspoken thing that had been laying dormant.
I think that's why this movie is so powerful. And I think, and I mean, I should preface all this by saying, like, I don't know enough about Japanese culture to really understand everything that's going on in this movie, but we can talk about that in a minute. But what I wanted to say was, I think one of the reasons this movie is so powerful is because it always does, at least to me, feel a little bit beyond my ken, so to speak.
Oh, sure.
There's always a reaching quality. And so when you come back to it, it does have that same kind of strange, surreal authority that a dream can have over you, which is, again, almost like the same notion of the sublime. This is just a little beyond what you'll ever be able to understand. And when you watch it again, it's like, oh my God, I'm back in that dream space. You know what I mean? I think that's why the movie can be so powerful.
How you doing, Ange?
Good. Great. Feeling good. I don't have like a back. You guys are all at like desks of some kind, and I
do have a
any
back
in my room. So I was like trying to like set up like a leaning situation, and like my laptop's on like a TV dinner stand right now.
You're killing it, Ange.
Thanks, I'm trying.
So guys, what are some of our favorite old bits? So like one bit I remembered I totally forgot about is handing out cards. Remember I used to give like
The
yellow cards
funny.
and red
Death
cards?
card is one of your
the
best
death card
moments
was
ever.
a big moment.
Yeah, I
people
gotta
have
bring
asked
that
about
back.
the cards. They've
I
asked
know.
where they went.
Totally forgot. And then Griffin, you had your soapbox bit.
Oh, right. Yes.
Remember, you would put
the
a
Foley
box-
work for the soapbox. Yes.
But you would have to go upstairs and it would take a really long time and David would always be like, oh my God.
That bit's been replaced with every ad read. I think that same function is achieved with every ad read. The Basta on with it. Get it out enough already.
I've used the soapbox bit on Twitter. I think it's like an easily
soapbox
translatable,
Twitter.
just like
Another one I thought of is remember when you guys kept going blue, brown when we were doing the Batman episodes?
Oh, yeah.
Not really.
Talking
Why
about
were we
the
doing
color
that?
palette of each movie.
Color palette.
Sure. The Nolan series brought out a lot of silliness in a surprising way.
That's when we started at Audio Boom.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes. Ben, you had gotten hired over to Audio Boom, and we left the UCB podcast network to follow you there. But all of that was happening also while I was filming The Tick.
Yeah.
It was sort of a pileup of things that happened all at once. And so those episodes were all recorded at like weird times or days off or weekends when I was really stressed out and overworked. And we had fewer guests on that miniseries because of that. And I think those episodes are some of people's favorites because sometimes the show is at its best when we're kind of going crazy.
Yeah. It's sadly true.
Well, I think a lot like, you know, when directors are like limited in certain ways, I think sometimes if we don't have guests or like a particularly fascinating movie to talk about, not that Nolan's not fascinating, it allows you guys to get creative and silly and weird. Like the Inception, when I have like a vivid memory of like walking home and realizing that Ben was like adding in like the layers and you guys were each like falling back and just like hearing you all go like, whoa, was pretty fantastic.
Should we listen to that?
We
Sure,
should.
let's
I mean,
just-
for
we're silly
context,
boys.
I was resistant to doing Nolan. It was when we were going to do Michael Bay, when people sussed out through hints on Mike that we were going to do Michael Bay, they started objecting. So then we pivoted to Nolan quickly, and I didn't want to do it because I thought he's too big, he's had too many hits, it's not interesting to talk about. We had mostly covered filmmakers who had had big ups and downs at that point. And Spielberg was something of an exception, but we also covered the period of his career that was weirder. So I was sort of resistant to Nolan, and the thing that finally won me over was in our text chain, Ben said, what about the Inception episode, podcast within a podcast? And I went, fine, I give up. And then you and I started planning how we were going to do that episode. It was a classic blank check structure where you and I plan a dumb thing, don't tell David about it.
Yep.
And test his tolerance for the dumb thing that we are foisting upon him.
My favorite.
But I also think it opened up the show a little bit, both in terms of how silly things got and also in terms of this really doesn't have to be a bad movie podcast. It doesn't have to be a podcast about people failing. It can be a more generous thing of just sort of trying to figure out a person and their work and talking about these movies and their cultural place. I think it freed us up a lot.
Okay, Inception.
Inception. So, he makes Inception, and it comes out, and people like it.
Yeah.
Okay, well, good up.
Wait a second. Ben, what's that? Is there a leak in the ceiling? I feel like it's this rubble that's...
Oh my God.
What's going on here in the studio? Ben, what's going on?
This is great so far.
I mean, wait, what's happening?
It feels like the podcast is collapsing.
Oh my God, is the room falling apart?
The room's falling.
Oh my God!
Ben, we just started.
I forgot that this is
talking
an
about the
audio
movie.
medium.
Yeah, no.
How are we gonna?
Wait, are you guys telling me that the room's falling
Oh my
apart?
the
God!
podcast is collapsing.
Oh God!
We have to go deeper?
We gotta go. Can we
Should-
go? Can we go into a podcast in a podcast?
Yeah, I guess we're gonna. Yeah.
Okay, let's plug in, guys.
Ben, don't be too shaken up.
Yeah.
We can do this.
Thank God I
Okay.
brought my dream suitcase. Okay, here we go.
Great suitcase.
David?
All right. And how do I just instantly fall asleep?
You just put the thing on your arm? I
Yeah.
never really figured it out.
Great. Okay. Cool.
Yeah. Just count sheep.
Oh.
You mustn't be afraid to podcast a little bigger, darling.
Oh, good. There you go.
Hi,
Another
I'm-
great line.
I'm Griffin Newman.
Oh, great. David Sims.
Welcome to Blank Check with Griffin and David. This is a mini-series called The Pod Night Cast, and today we're talking about the movie Inception. Okay, so the movie starts.
It starts with Leonardo DiCaprio washing up on a beach.
Yeah.
Right? That's the first thing.
Yeah. Oh, I should just apologize in advance if we have some sound problems. We are recording from the back of a van right now.
Sorry, I'm gonna take a sharp turn, guys.
Okay.
Hold on.
It's fine.
What great performers we all are.
I mean, truly, though,
Is the podcast collapsing?
talking about David becoming sillier on the show for someone who, dare I say it, never made a Herald team, never made a Lloyd team,
Oh,
has
that's
no
an old
improv
bit.
background.
That is an old bit that multiple people who don't know what it means texted me being like, can you stop doing that bit? I don't know what it means.
Kind of the reason we stopped doing that bit.
Yeah.
I
But
thought it was funny.
David truly didn't know what we had planned for that episode, and he was not hearing those sound effects in real time. So he's just hearing the two of us saying those dumb things, describing what's happening, and doing a lot of physical act outs. We were both acting it out physically.
Yes.
Because we had to make it real for him in the room. But David, like a great improviser, was just yes-anding, he was accepting the reality, and he was rolling with it. Even if you can hear him rolling his eyes at the same time.
Yes.
But that episode, Rebecca Bolness, friend of the show, and someone who became a friend of the show through her listening to the show, her starting to write about it on AV Club. Then we started communicating with her on Twitter, and she eventually came on the show and has become an IRL friend to all of us.
We love her.
But the best. That episode she put as, it was the top episode on Podmas that week on the AV Club, where we were like the headline.
Yeah.
Huge. One of those things that just kind of like, especially back then, those 3 long years ago, it was something that could overnight kind of like make a podcast, especially within that sort of sphere. and she had very generously covered us a couple times through our Cameron Crowe and the Wachowski and Shyamalan series. But then that was the main headline. The photo was Griffin and David finally tackle Inception. And the moment that I realized that could be a headline on a V Club and not be gibberish, you know? Not in a important way, but that there were enough people listening to our show that people could see that headline and it would mean something. It was one of those moments. David, you and I, both big podcast fans. I think we both thought about doing podcasts in our lives, but weren't necessarily specifically driving towards that in our careers. But I think that was a moment that was kind of very surreal, like pinched me of like, this feels like we're a real thing now. Now, can we talk about, of course, the most important bit in the history of podcasts that I think we're talking around?
I'm sure. What is it?
I don't know if you folks are aware of this, but David grew up in England.
Wait, what?
How did I forget that that's what you were queuing up?
David Sims, who speaks with an American accent,
right?
Go get my passport.
was born in New York City.
He doesn't even wear petticoats.
He doesn't even. Spent most of his adolescence in London, England. And David has truly walked off camera. He left.
Whoa.
Oh my God.
Oh my
Wait a
God.
second. Wait a second. This has never come up on the podcast. That's why I felt like we had to save this for the 5th anniversary as a big reveal. David is currently leafing through his UK passport. He's holding it up to the camera. It's real, folks. This is no bit unless he is committing passport forgery. This is a real EU passport. Oh my God, David Lawrence Sims.
Well, but EU, you're not in the EU
Well, I'm going to
anymore.
need a fucking new one because of Brexit,
You're gonna need
but
a
right
new one.
now I have the EU one.
Here's a question. Ange posted on the Reddit a couple weeks or maybe a month or two back asking people for things they wanted to see or hear in the 5th anniversary episode. And here's an interesting thing to discuss because I don't know if we've really talked about this. Just a nice little bonus trivia fact to give our listeners. I Laugh Alone, which I believe is the great Emilio Diaz, right?
Correct.
He said, have you ever been close to getting a miniseries subject or a star of the film you are covering to be on the episode? I don't think we've ever come close with a star, but we have twice gotten within shouting distance of getting a director on. We multiple times were at least in the preliminary conversations with Ang Lee's people and with M. Night Shyamalan's people. And David has switched to a different background photo that is now Colin Farrell and Gong Li in Miami Vice. But this is true, and it's not a thing we talked about. And maybe someday we'll make it happen.
Yeah, I guess we talked about we have talked about Shyamalan. I guess Ang Lee, we never talked about that. We'll see. Hopefully it'll happen one day.
A couple times we were looped in with Shyamalan's with the marketing team for Glass when that movie was about to come out.
We talked about that. We did acknowledge that one.
We got close to doing it. We almost interviewed him live, and then Ang Lee almost did our live show with James Seamus, but he was working on something overseas.
No, he was getting an honorary award in like Taiwan or something.
But I believe he was also producing that award show.
Well, all right. He's a hardworking guy. Look, I mean, he's not going to
a
get an award
hardworking
without
guy.
producing the damn show.
But he relayed a message to us that he would have been there were he in the country. And then when Gemini Man was coming out, both when it was coming out theatrically and when it was coming out on home video, we were talking with the marketing team. Look, we've gotten somewhat close, and they're the two who feel the closest, and hopefully someday we'll make it happen. They're the two guys I almost would be most curious to speak to, especially Shyamalan, who in his assessment of his career the last couple of years, I think has a similar perspective on his career as to how we sort of talked about him on the show.
I want Spielberg. He should come on. Spielberg on Blank Check.
I would sit down with the bearded one. I would.
Now we were talking Shyamalan, who is the first director, right? We covered after the Star Wars days. And I thought we could play some messages from some friends of the show who were like really early on started being guests and were, people that are now in the 5-timer club.
Oh, some 5-timers. Let's play the clip.
My favorite movie is Wall-E.
Why is your favorite movie Wall-E?
Because it's really funny.
Hi, Griffin and David and Ben. This is Katie and Charlie. Charlie, can you say hi?
Hi.
The last time you heard Charlie on the show, we were on the Titanic episode. Charlie was a tiny baby. Do you remember going to record in a recording studio with me, Charlie?
Yeah.
Yeah, you do? Since then, Charlie has seen a lot of movies. Charlie, have you seen Gigantic?
Mm-hmm.
What happens in that movie?
The boat sinks into the water.
It does sink into the water. But that's not your favorite movie. Your favorite movie is Wall-E?
Yeah.
Who's your favorite robot in Wall-E?
I like Wall-E.
What other movies do you like?
The short movies.
The short movies?
Yeah.
What about Sing? Yeah. Do you like going to the movie theater?
Yeah.
What do you do at the movie theater?
You are in the audience?
Yeah. And is it a big screen or a little screen?
On a big screen.
And what do you eat? Popcorn. We wanted to say thank you and congratulations on 5 years. A special thank you to letting me bring a baby into a recording studio. I can't believe you let me do it. And thank you for having me back after that. Maybe Charlie and I can be on again in 5 more years when Charlie will be a big kid and watch big kid movies. Do you want to say anything else, Charlie?
No.
Okay. Happy anniversary, guys.
Hello, Simsy and Griffey and Benny. This is your friend Richard, the Kevin Feige of the Trolls Cinematic Omniverse. I wanted to say happy 5th anniversary and congratulations on such a successful, joyfully ridiculous podcast. Listening to your show and being a guest on your show during this completely non-stressful, totally normal half-decade has made me laugh, made me think, and made me reconsider everything I thought I knew about the movies. I love you boys and wish you at least a couple years more. As ever, please support my trolls, as they, and I, their malevolent creator, will always support you.
Yeah, we should acknowledge that the trolls have a significant financial stake in the show.
They really do.
We don't know how, but they're somehow venture funding like a lot of the operation.
We're in the pocket of Big Troll, and yes, the trolls as a collective, much like how Wisconsin owns the Green Bay Packers.
Yeah, right.
We are largely owned by the trolls as a collective.
Man, it was good to hear Charlie's voice. I haven't seen Charlie Baltus since he was about 2 years old. I saw him last summer, and then he was in a phase where he just called everything yellow. Any color, you'd ask him what colors were, but he would always just say it was yellow. And clearly he's just only, growing by leaps and bounds.
Yeah, it's weird the way he's growing as time progresses.
It's insane.
Can we also appreciate that she said he would listen to big kid movies when he's 5 years older, as if Griffin doesn't still watch movies that he would have.
Well, look, he basically has one of your favorite movies is his favorite movie.
I'm glad he upgraded, because for a while Sing was his favorite movie, and for a while before that it was Cars 3, and I think we're finally getting to the real good stuff.
Yeah, some auteur shit.
Look, I'm willing to call him our second finest film critic. I think Charlie Balthus, in addition to being our youngest ever guest, is the second finest film critic.
And we will have him back on the show.
Yeah.
We will. A thing we have floated out that now might be a little bit further off just because of where the world is at. But one of our ideas for our eventual trip to Disney in order to cover Galaxy's Edge is to make a little pit stop to visit Katie and Charlie and do a little episode with them. We would do maybe a Charlie's Choice or a commentary or something with Charlie. So he'll join the Two Timers Club eventually, and Katie Richard, Little Gold Man, listen to it, read them on Vanity Fair. Two of our finest, two people who we would not be such close friends with if not for trivia as well. It's kind of crazy how many of our recurring guests are either people we met through trivia, people who we knew online but we invited to trivia and that was the first time we met them in real life, or previous friends of ours who joined us for trivia once or twice and then became closer friends. It really is our sort of social nexus for this show still.
I miss trivia.
I miss
right now. I
trivia.
miss everything.
I miss literally everything outside of my window.
I think this is a good time to say that Ange rules. Used to be my.
We love
she
her.
does.
It's always
She's-
a good time to say that.
Yeah. I'm so happy that we met you and you became a part of the show. And now at this point, 5 years, you're able to really take on so much more of a role with the show, and all that you've done to grow social media for the show, and like assistance you've provided to me. And I just really feel like you have brought your own voice to this show in such a great way. And love you, Ange, and so thankful to have you part of Blank Check.
Thanks, Ben. I love you guys too.
We love you, and you're the best, and you have helped the show in so many incalculable ways. But also, it's been such a pleasure becoming friends with you. You are someone we have met solely through doing the podcast. And it was a happenstance thing, you know, that you happened to be interning at the time that we were sort of getting our sea legs, and that we noticed your tweets and how much better they were than our tweets. And when your internship ended, we said, if you want to keep doing this, we will pay you whenever we figure out how to make money off of this. And for a long time, I've been thanking you at the end of every episode, saying thanks to Ange Ferguda for our social media. But that has been reductive for a lot of that time. That was initially your only responsibility with the show, but more and more over time, you have been taking on more and more responsibility, and your voice has been affecting all areas of the show, and you're looped in on all areas of planning and sort of bigger picture strategy, and now are starting to appear on microphone on the show more often. But you are, you know, Ange is, this is, I guess, as good a time as any to make the announcement that Ange is a producer on the show now. Ange is sort of full-time team Blank Check, as we are figuring out how to keep this thing going and what else we can grow it into, and how to make it bigger and better. The Barracuda.
The Barracuda. The tweeter.
The tweeter.
I'm trying to think. Ange and the Pussycats.
That's
I
something.
ran out of
You guys
steam.
are with my Pussycats.
Yeah.
go.
Let's hear a clip from that episode. That was the first episode you appeared on, right, Ange?
Oh God, yeah. That was. You guys gave me a choice to pick whatever I wanted, and I went for Josie and the Pussycats.
So Wyatt turns them into the next du jour.
Number one.
The next thing.
The du jour, du jour.
Exactly.
I was going to say, I love that they hide within the cut. That's a bit of a time jump, the fact that he actually hasn't heard them at all.
Yeah,
you
exactly.
assume because he's having the conversation with them.
Yeah. They go to the bathroom. They go, but he's never listened to our music yet.
Right.
He presents them the contract, right? Yeah, he's
I was here with real
Alan
Stars
Alan
who
Cumming's
wanted to
so
wreck a deal.
funny.
So
He's so good. Where is his Oscar?
I remember
Where is his Oscar?
Truly, for this performance, him and we'll get to Parker and spend hopefully like 20 minutes on her. But like,
Yeah, sure. That's what we need to do. We need to spend 20 minutes on her.
My brother Jamesy.
Sure.
I remember him coming home, being dropped off, the great James Newman, coming home, being dropped off by his friend's mom, who had taken him and his friend to go see Josie and the Pussycats on a play date.
Fair.
And she was telling my parents how bad the movie was.
What?
And she was like, Alan Cumming, it's embarrassing. I have no idea why he did this after Cabaret. He's such a good actor. And that woman was married to a record executive.
So you think maybe she couldn't see the forest from the trees, though?
Kind of, because it's like this performance is fucking
I don't mean
dead
to be rude.
on.
Yeah.
he's fantastic.
And what a
the little
perfect
flip phone.
comedic pitch.
Yeah.
But
And then we quickly they get successful.
Yep, of
They
course.
have
There's a little montage of them
literally
climbing the
just
charts.
climb the charts.
It's funny.
Very quickly followed by, isn't it crazy? This has all happened in 1 week.
So funny. So funny. I also love.
No.
There's the shot when they see the billboard in Times Square where they're rebranded as Josie. and the
Josie.
Pussycats. What do you want to read a
his
comic
line.
book? Go watch an animated series. Go see a motion picture called Josie and the Pussycats. But they.
Prior to that says, would you rather go see the Pussycats?
Yeah, right.
Or
Three fierce, ferocious ladies. They have this beautiful, like, matte painted Times Square.
Right.
Where they don't even, like, take Times Square and put fake billboards over it. They compress all of Times Square into one corner.
Right.
So it's literally, like, you can't see anything but
It's
screens
a
and
crazy
billboards.
made up New York.
It looks like Akira or something. It's, like, unbelievable.
This movie's great.
And they're in their beautiful, like, loft apartment.
As we've already noted a million times, any scene, there is some sort of product placement in the background, basically.
Somewhere.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. I forgot that Josie and the Pussycats is the greatest movie ever made.
Such a good movie.
Just re-listening to that clip. And as if I wasn't already all in on Andrew Fergudo at that point in the podcast, I had played the idle mind game of, what if I ever did a Griffin's Choice episode? Not that we would ever need that, because the whole fucking podcast is David Nye's taste. But what if I, like Ben, had to pick a one-off that never would necessarily fit into a miniseries? And Josie and the Pussycats was probably my answer. And then you picked that, Ange, and it's solidified that you belong in this family. Ange is a very good writer, above all else, and I think saying that you are a social media person, even though we are now properly crediting you as a co-producer of the show, and acknowledging all the other things you do, but it's not like you're just the person timing the posts. You are writing things that are so in line with the voice of the show, and that's what made us notice you. And yeah, right. I mean, I think before the Josie and the Pussycats episode, the time that we had hung out in person were almost always like a business meeting. Like, let's get coffee and like strategize and catch you up on the state of the show. But that was the start of us all becoming more friends, the four of us together.
Right, hanging out and texting about movies.
We might sound a little vague talking about this right now, but it's mostly just because the world's kind of on pause. But we've been talking a lot about like our plans for the future of this show, but also kind of what we want to do beyond the show. And not in terms of, oh, we should sell a book or make a TV show, because who the fuck cares? That's not what this is about, but trying to find a way to expand what we've been able to do, and the fact that we've been able to build a little functioning economy around it. And the most, satisfying part of that is not just being able to, like, give Ange a full-time job, but also people like Joe Bowen, who was just a listener of the show, who sent us fan art. And we've been able to pay him to make more and more art for us, which we use for merchandise. And Pat Reynolds, who does our photo shots. Lane Montgomery with their theme song. These people trying to be able to repay them for the time that they put into it. Especially because all of us started out doing this just for fun, not being paid any money. And the people who have joined our family also just started doing things out of kindness or out of passion or interest, but there was nothing at stake. And I want to live in a world where people can get repaid for working hard and being kind and sticking around. And we want to try to be able to extend that a little bit. Ideally, in the abstract, we want to be able to make some other shows with our friends, with the people who you hear on the podcast a lot, with the people who are in our ecosystem. Not start a network or anything, but maybe a little production company. And that's sort of what we've been planning for a little bit, and it's still the plan. It might take a little longer to get off the ground, but the hope is that we can build this into a little economy that makes it easier for people to get podcasts going.
100%.
Hell yeah. Now, I kind of thought it would be fun to maybe talk to you guys about sort of just the run of like the Marvel movies. Yeah. I think we're more or less we've recorded and wrapped on Star Wars, and just sort of like our thoughts on how that franchise commentary series has been going.
I mean, I think we waited a while to do a Patreon because we didn't want to do it unless we felt like we had a good idea for what made it different from the main feed without taking something away from the main feed. And also a way to feasibly record that much extra audio a month, because if we were going to do it, we wanted to offer people a lot for their money. But the thing that's nice about it is I think it's hard to go home again. The show naturally evolves. It changes and it morphs. And if we tried to keep it in the same place, it would be disingenuous because all of our lives have changed in the last 5 years, and we've changed as people, and the world's changed around us, and all of that. But there's something about doing the Patreon commentaries, especially because they're just on a couch, and they feel kind of low stakes, even though there is a lot of money at stake that people are literally betting on those episodes being good. They are able to feel a little bit more like the early Star Wars episodes, I think.
Yeah.
It's
been so fun. I loved Big Nice.
It's not R.I.P. Big Nice. It was one of the great places. Terrific place. But, it's not like the main blank check has become incredibly formal or structured. But it's nice to have another feed where we can do sort of weirder stuff. And get looser and have it be more of a hangout show.
You know what? I will say, over the many episodes, I've had to cut out stuff to protect Griffin's career.
Did you not cut anything out?
Oh, no. Why? Was I supposed to? I thought you were joking.
No, you yourself just said you had to cut things out to protect my career. That was the deal we made.
Yeah, but it was a bit.
Cut that
It was
shit
like
out?
a bit.
But I thought it was a bit.
No,
though.
it wasn't a bit. It's a no bits podcast.
Oh, I
Shit.
forgot it's a no bits podcast.
Griffin, I'm really sorry.
I have a little
never
post-it here.
What's that?
Well, now
It says no
now
bits
I
podcast.
understand.
I forgot to look at it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, now I fucking understand the feedback I got on my Jurassic World Dominion audition. Now I get it.
So now you'll never have
Thanks
Dominion?
for telling me. Well, I'm not anymore. I thought I did a great tape. Oh, jeez Louise. That was okay. Here was a thing someone asked about on the Reddit that I want to speed round really quickly, just for the sake of getting messy.
Sure.
Because so much of a running bit on this podcast has been me saying things that jeopardize my career. Not really a bit. Not really a bit. It has increasingly become a thing where I get an audition email and I go, I don't know if I can go in for that. Knowing what I just said on mic. And at least one time when we had to cut something out right after I booked a job.
Yeah.
Yep.
But someone asked in the thread, alongside, what things did you come close to doing? What guests did you almost have on the show? The guests that we almost have and hadn't had, I think we've named all of them, but Max Minghella and Jamie Bell, who we will have on at some time. James Urbaniak, who we came close to recording with, we will have on at some time. I don't think there are any sort of secret near gets.
No.
My dad.
Right, Robert Hosley we will have on at some point.
The mythical
My
Where's
mother.
Papa episode. Right.
Yes, COVID-19 survivor Antonio Dauphin.
Okay, but what else?
Someone asked if I could rattle off jobs I almost got.
Oh, this is fun.
So I'm just going to speed round this, okay?
All right, let's go.
Obvious one I discuss a lot, Scott Pilgrim versus the World, playing young Neil. I got weirdly close. It was the most panicked I've ever been about my career to playing Ken Jeong's role in Ride Along 2, which was originally it was originally written to be a 23-year-old white guy. And if you look at the movie, Ken Jeong was cast so late that he is costumed in that movie like you would costume me. He wears a backpack and college student clothes the whole movie. Got weirdly close to that. Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. I don't know if I've ever talked about this on the podcast. I almost played Michelangelo in the Michael Bay produced Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot. I was almost on Smash playing Deborah Messing's son. That came very close to happening.
I mean, you would have been the game-changing element. I think it would still be on today.
I think it would still be on the air. Or it would have gotten canceled faster. One of the two would have happened.
Didn't we do a Scooby-Doo audition together?
We did a Scooby-Doo audition for the movie that is now, was supposed to come out. Scoob, maybe now will never be released or will end up going straight to TikTok. But the whole thing was they said they wanted a young comedian to play Scooby-Doo and they didn't want them to do an impression of the original voice. They wanted them to make it their own. Do you know who ultimately got that role?
Ooh. You tell me.
Frank Welker, who for the last 20 years has been the voice of Scooby-Doo in every single media property.
So someone eventually was just like, what are you talking about? Just have it be Scooby-Doo. Jesus Christ.
Yeah, what the fuck are you talking about? Bloodshot. I was trying really hard to get cast in Bloodshot.
Oh, yes, you were. But did you come? Yeah, I remember that.
I didn't come as close as the other things I just listed, but I was trying so hard to get their attention, and I was sort of getting through to them that I made an audition tape of myself doing Vin's quarter mile at a time monologue from the first Fast and Furious. And that role was ultimately played by Lamorne Morris with a British accent.
Okay, have you seen the movie yet? No. When does it debut?
I've not. I can't wait. Tuesday.
Okay, I'm excited too, honestly. As someone who skipped the press screening, I am now excited.
I mean, a fatal mistake. Truly.
Well, I partly skipped it because I was like, I don't know how many more of these group events I should be attending.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah.
Any other regrets, Griffin? Any people you maybe regret telling people to punch in the dick for years?
Anybody who wears like sort of like a hat you would maybe wear on a boat, perhaps?
Look, we talked about regrets earlier in the episode, and I will say...
I actually almost brought this up then.
I know, I think we should talk about this. I do genuinely regret what the Colin Trevorrow bit turned into.
Yeah.
And, we genuinely are not huge fans of that guy's movies. At the time we started doing the show, we were, as we've said, in a closet doing a show for no money that literally tens of people listened to. And it felt like, this is so clearly punching up. Who are we? This show is nothing. We're being hyperbolic in our dislike of this guy as a person. It's very clear that it's a bit. But as things do, they metastasize, and they grow, and they take on a life of their own, to the point that he eventually caught wind of it, and was clearly upset that a podcast spent 3 years telling its listeners to punch him in the penis. And it is a thing that, in the same time that we have been doing this show, I have become much more of a public figure than I was when we started. I am nowhere near the level of success that Colin Trevorrow has achieved. I say with all sincerity, but I've sort of now come to understand what it's like to have strangers you don't know saying things about you and analyzing your intent and all of these things. And I think it's a thing that sort of changed the show. That even if we're going to criticize things, I try to do it from a place of much greater empathy. And not do things that can sort of callously be misinterpreted and heightened to a degree that you can't even control anymore. So I want to say this. Look, genuinely, I am sorry to the captain, Colin Trevorrow. He has done a number of things in the last year that I deeply respect. I think his recent Jurassic World short's the best thing he's ever done. I think him giving all of his proceeds from Rise of Skywalker to a children's hospital is classy as fuck. And also, hey, guess what, Colin? You proved us wrong. Your script for episode 9 was inarguably better. Yep. You fucking got the last laugh. You fucking pwned us. We're the noobs. Touche. And if Colin Trevorrow ever wanted to come on this show, the door is open.
Come on, Colin.
We are
your favorite
movie.
He can punch Griffin in the penis.
I will say this. You know what? Yes, I will say this in all sincerity. If Colin Trevorrow ever wants to come on the show, he is allowed to punch me in the penis. I mean that. I swear to God, it is the least I can offer.
I'm sure he would be the bigger man or whatever. I'm sure he would not do it, but it's nice
I'm sure
to give
he
him
would,
a shot.
because he's classier than us, but he deserves a shot. He deserves a clean shot at the peen.
All right, let's wrap this up, guys. I gotta go eat something.
Yep. Well, do Griffin and David, do you want to say nice things to each other? I'll just say I love you boys, and I really respect you both. And I think you guys are hilarious and smart. And the show that we are going to keep doing for a long time is, I don't know, it's just really fun and cool.
It is fun and cool. Like me.
David's pretty cool.
No, please.
David doesn't want to say anything sincere. He wants to compliment himself. He wants to say that he's fun and cool.
Well, he is now bad. He's bad Sims.
He's bad
bad
David.
David.
He's
Bad boy
bad
Sims.
Sims.
Where is it?
Oh, shit.
Oh, the shirt? You're going to put the shirt on?
Get
I
the
don't know where it
vest.
is. It's
Get the
somewhere.
vest.
I will say this about David. It is one of those things where he was the friend I did not know I was missing in my life until I met him.
Absolutely
and we met
the
at a
same.
weird time. We met
Yes.
through weird circumstances.
Yes.
But once we started really clicking, I recognized this is a person I can have types of conversations with that I have never had before. These conversations I had previously only had in my mind with myself, or I try to have them with other people, and they go, I don't understand what the fuck you're talking about.
That is true.
It is a great pleasure and a great privilege if you get to meet someone in your life who unlocks a different part of yourself in that way. And the thing that makes me happiest about this show, if I can get emotional for a moment, is that when people message us and say, especially now as people are self-quarantining and social distancing, we get these messages scattered throughout the year, but there's been a lot of them in the last 10 days or so. People messaging me directly and saying, I really, really want to thank you folks for continuing to do the show and putting out a regular schedule while all of this is going on, because I'm kind of losing my mind, and the show really helps me. And I'm a dude with a broken brain. I discuss it a lot. I got all sorts of weird mental and emotional peculiarities. And for me, one of the things that has always kept me sane, whether or not it is healthy, I self-medicate with the art and the entertainment I love. It is
the movies.
They're the things
you're looking for
that give
the
me
movies.
the movies. They give me solace, and they help me understand the world a little bit, and they give me a little place that feels like home. And my friendship with you, David, is another thing that gives me that relief, and what we have, I think, unknowingly been able to make with this show, which we never could have done by design. But when people send those messages, what I recognize is happening is we are allowing other people to join us in these conversations. People who live in different cities, who live in different countries, who might have a weird job at weird hours, or a weird school in a weird place where no one else cares about the things that they care about. And you can always go online. You can go on a message board. You can go on blinkies.reddit.com. But these conversations, very quickly can take a turn online. And what we have tried to do with this show is make a conversation that all of you folks can join in on, that feels like the beers or the coffee you would have after seeing a great movie or a bad movie when you're trying to dissect it, and trying to offer up that kind of friendship to other people. So, it never gets to the point of seriousness where I have even verbalized this to you folks, because it's never something I'm seriously considering. But when I'm in my darkest moments, when I'm in my most stressed out, when I'm feeling the most depressed about my career, my life, or whatever, I go, should I stop doing everything? Should I move to the Alps? Should I stop doing the podcast? Is the podcast a hindrance to my acting career? Is the podcast a hindrance to my social life? I investigate all of these things because I overthink everything. And the answer to all of them is no. It has only enriched every sector of my life. But also, when I get a message from someone saying, I've had a really rough year, I struggle from depression, I've been having medical issues, I went through a bad breakup, my mom is sick, any of these things, and these messages are coming in with greater frequency now as we're all fighting this pandemic, it makes me wonder why I would ever consider stop doing this thing. Because at the end of the day, it is the only thing I've actually aspired to do in my entire life. Whatever abstract career goals I have had at any point in time assigned to any specific type of job, the thing I really wanted to do was make something that people could care about. Feel like I made some positive impact in the lives of other people through something they could consume, because the stuff that I consume is the only stuff that keeps me alive. So people often send those messages, or will stop us when we're out on the street and say these things to us. And I feel like it's always prefaced with an apology. I'm so sorry to say this. I'm sorry to bother you. I'm sure you don't want to hear this. And I just want to say, never stop saying these things. It means the world to me, and it means the world to us. It's very validating, and it's honestly, it is a great honor to be allowed into your lives in that way. And I hope we can continue making things a little bit better for you, or at least a little more comfortable for a couple hours a week.
I agree. Hell yeah. Yes, it's very hard to make friends. This Griff's all emotional. It's very sweet. We love him. I love you, buddy.
I would just like to point out that listeners, the image I want in your head while Griffin gave that beautiful, really like touching speech.
Yeah.
There's a
Two
shirtless
Vin
photo of Vin
Diesels.
Diesel
Looking at each
shirtless
other,
Vin
both
Diesels.
holding
On a
surfboards.
Look,
Meanwhile,
it's very
brand, baby.
touching and beautiful. I
I'm
just
sitting next
know
to
that
Gong Li in a bathrobe.
Hey,
She's in the
I don't
bathrobe.
know if you know
that's
this,
the image
but
I want in your heads.
This is a very, very silly podcast.
It is. Griff, it's very, it is hard to make friends when you're a grown up. I don't know if you agree with that, but I
agree 100%.
And everything we've been saying, it's like, it is nuts that it all worked out the way it did and how easily it could have not worked out.
Mm-hmm.
And then it got us where we are today. I don't know. You already said all that stuff. It was great. I can't, come on. I can't top that.
Hey,
Classic
and that's why I love you,
Sims.
baby. Classic Sims. So on brand.
I'm hungry.
No, it is. I feel like the four of us, or any two of us in any configuration, often when we're hanging out, we'll say, like, looking back, isn't it crazy that we made that decision at that point? There are a bunch of things that in retrospect we go, God, we really dodged a bullet there, or we somehow did this thing that helped us weather the weird ups and downs of this podcast industry. It's weird to be making a thing in an industry that is still figuring itself out. And we've gotten really lucky in a lot of ways, but we also we work really hard to try to figure out what you folks are responding to and try to give you more of that. The money that we have now gotten from Patreon is something I think we never could have anticipated. It has changed all four of our lives, but it is not something that we are going to let make us lazy. We are not going to rest on our laurels.
We're putting it back into the show.
We're putting it back into the show and into the community, and we're following the M. Night Shyamalan model, which is you got to bet the house, and you got to stay scared, and you got to keep on trying to push yourself to new areas. So, the show's going to keep evolving. It's nothing dramatic is going to change in the way it sounds to you. The show will remain the same, but stuff is changing behind the scenes, and hopefully it will extend to other things outside of it. If any of us are ever allowed to leave our house, hopefully we'll be doing more live shows, and we'll be branching out and having other podcasts that exist on our little family tree, and making some real nerdy merchandise for you folks. We have stuff that has now gone through production that is sitting in boxes.
The
that
emails I have received.
They will release
gotta
to you
check
at
in
some
with them.
point. Can I reveal? Let's reveal one thing, because I think it will be exciting to people.
Definitely.
Okay. Okay.
Well, the relevant item to today's episode.
We have a special. It was going to be sold at our live show. We have a special design that the great Joe Bowen made for us. Tough to make the 5 anniversary design that we were going to sell as a poster and a shirt. We will still be selling them at our New York live shows, which are now rescheduled for June 29th. If you already have a ticket, your ticket has rolled over to the equivalent show, the earlier late show, on that night. If you can no longer make the show and you have a ticket, they will refund you, and thus tickets will be opened up to the community to give some other people a chance to get into that show. But yes, we have a really cool 5th anniversary design we might post in a little bit. We'll sell it online as well as a t-shirt and a poster, but it's just loaded with many of our favorite bits from across the history of the show. But you want to talk about some real nerdy shit, an initiative led by our own Angela Barracuda Farragudo. We have produced physical comedy point coins. We have produced arcade-style metal tokens.
Well, I was personally inspired by John Wick.
They are like the John Wick coins. They are not valid currency. I specifically
looked up the specifications of what's the name of the hotel?
The Continental.
The Continental Hotel coin.
But this is a 3D printed relief, true metal coin with our dumb faces on it that is valid for 5 comedy points and in no other way is legal currency. That is something we have invested our money into making, and we will be selling to you for probably no profit. The margins on that one are going to be tough.
Friends.
But you can give comedy points to your friend, and that's what we want to do.
That's the margin, the joke margin, the comedy point margin.
It's the joke margin. We want to open up the comedy point economy. As the world economy is tanking, the comedy point economy needs to rise to the occasion. So that stuff will be coming soon. And look forward to more future announcements of other stuff we try to do. We're trying to spread our wings and come up with some other things we can do. Use the money you're giving us for good and take some wild chances. And maybe eventually get to Disney World if they ever reopen it. Yeah. Drop in some final voicemails at the end of this episode and a bonus size voicemail from the great Chris Weitz. An example of someone who, David, as you said, it is tough to make friends as a grown-up. This podcast has been a conduit for most of my adult friendships now.
Yeah.
The people I knew a little bit, the people I've met, the people I've gotten to know better. And Chris is a great example of someone who we were fans of, who then improbably listened to the show, reached out to us, and now has become something of a friend.
A friend and also a collaborator.
And a producer on Night Eggs.
Nice.
So thank you all for listening all these years to all of these episodes. And thanks to Ange Ferragudo for producing this show, along with Ben Hosley, and Rachel Jacobs, who has stepped up to the plate and has done some Herculean work for us over these last couple of months as we have been weathering multiple career and industry transitions. Rachel has been hugely important to the show in that time. And
yes.
Thank you to everyone at Audio Boom who has supported us pretty unconditionally, has never tried to change the show, has given us a ton of free reign. And when we jumped over to them, we were still in a weird contractual place, and they let us record the show with them for many months before a contract had been signed, before ads were sold, before there was anything to get from us. And it was a real show of character and faith. So thank you, especially to Brendan over at Audio Boom for that.
Yeah.
And UCB Comedy for giving us the start in the first place. Bits aside, they did let us crack that egg.
They didn't need to do that. Yep.
They did not. They had no reason to. In fact, it was probably a bad idea. It was probably poor business strategy, much like everything they do.
I think that was about
and thanks to Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork.
Yes.
2 geniuses. People who just sent us stuff online. And, much like Ange, we said, if you want to keep doing this stuff, we'll figure out some way to repay you someday. But it is crazy. The longer this has gone on, the more and more insane their work has become. Pat especially, who had no background in graphic design and Photoshop, did this just for fun. I feel like every new miniseries artwork he does for us is somehow more complex and more flawless than the one before it. And I can't wait for you guys to see the 5th anniversary design that Joe Bowen did, because it's a real chef's kiss. And Lane Montgomery for our theme song, which was, written at the last possible second because I'm bad at planning things. And
the perfect amount of time for washing your hands.
It turns out to be perfect hand washing time. Big 20. And hopefully our live show at the Bell House rescheduled will be also the inaugural live performance of the Blank Check theme song with Lane Montgomery. So look forward to that.
As well as the debut of my buried jeans.
Wow! You're going to reveal that here?
Yup.
Okay.
Might as well.
Fair enough.
The jeans are out of the ground,
jeans.
baby, and they're
are
ready
to
be shown off on the runway.
Ready to be revealed. They will be shown at our live show on the 29th. Those live shows were originally going to be the first 2 Toy Story movies as live commentaries. We're now just doing those on the Patreon feed. But the thing we have planned for the 2 live shows now, I think people will be maybe even happier with. I think they will be truly satisfied with what we're planning now. It is very much
it's gonna be
on
great.
game with 2 of our classic bits. And yeah, go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit. It is very bizarre, the community that has sprung up around this show, and as I sort of alluded to earlier, it is nice to see people who have a safe online space where they can run and go, am I the only person who noticed this weird thing on this poster? The way I used to feel before I met David, and have a receptive online community there to go, no, I also noticed this as well, and it's been driving me crazy. We pride ourselves on having a nice fan base, and a place in a world where so much of the shit that happens online, especially around the entertainment industry, can get toxic very quickly. And I implore you all to constantly remain kind and
be nice.
Represent us well. Be nice. Love movies, because that's what it's about at the end of the day. And as always, David has fully rolled off camera. He's been throwing his hands up like, I don't know what to do. Clearly,
David's
Forky
hungry.
is yelling at him off
I'm
screen.
hungry.
He wants to eat. He's hungry. And I don't know if you folks know this, but I just feel it's important to say before we end this episode. I heard a rumor that David's from England.
Right. Jesus Christ.
Okay. Great up, guys. Bye.
Hi, hello. This is Shirley. I don't know if I needed to say that. Anyway, happy 5th anniversary, blank check. Congratulations. What an achievement. Ange said that I could make this voicemail whatever I wanted it to be and however long I wanted it to be. So, whoo, that is a lot of pressure. At first I thought maybe I would read the architect's entire monologue from The Matrix Reloaded, or describe in excruciating detail the plot of Detective Pikachu, or do something just as tedious and on brand as like a fun little prank. But truthfully, I'm feeling kind of sentimental, sitting here in my apartment in LA, social distancing with a glass of wine on a Friday afternoon, and operating on this like low grade level of constant, unwavering anxiety about the future. So, here's what I want to say. I've only been in the studio twice, for Ang Lee's Sense and Sensibility and for Ponyo during the Miyazaki series, but both of those visits were, first of all, some of the most fun I've ever had in the middle of a workday, and second of all, discussions that made me think about movies and movie making in an engaging, illuminating way that, you know, even though I write about movies and TV shows, sometimes it gets lonely putting ideas out there for strangers to respond to on the internet, which is something I've never really gotten used to be honest. So I remember that first episode was such a breath of fresh air for me at the time. You know, just getting to talk about a good movie with good people, to dive into one piece of filmmaking in the context of a larger filmography, to hear all your bits and Griffin's impression of Alan Rickman and Ben's hatred, however misguided, for the film, and David going off the leash, which I am not sorry about by any means. This is going to sound incredibly cheesy, but I think a lot about this quote from Before Sunset, which is one of my favorite movies, as I think maybe David knows. Esther definitely knows. Shout out to Esther. Anyway, there's a bit in it where Celine, Julie Delpy's character, talks about how when you're really young, you take people for granted, that you're just going to keep meeting interesting people all your life. And it's often only later, and sometimes too late, that you realize that it's actually really rare to find people you can truly connect with. And I think the same applies to more than just people, you know? It certainly goes for the pop culture you consume, and for your experiences too. Just that serendipitous thrill of discovery and I mean, what's the word? Like kinship, togetherness. Great show on HBO. Anyway, I just think those times in the studio with you guys fall under that umbrella for me, and I am grateful. I really am that you opened your door to have me guest for 2 films that I love dearly. Thank you for that. And Griffin, thank you for the comedy points. And Blankies, thank you for listening. God, I really hope I'm not the only one leaving a sentimental message. If I am, I'm not going to apologize. I'm just maybe a wee bit embarrassed. But really, congratulations on hitting 5 years. That's insane. Holy shit. Hopefully I'll see you guys at some point. David, I'll continue to bug you on Slack. Stay safe, stay healthy, and to wrap up, I'm going to leave you with a quote from Ponyo, a really poignant one, I think. So, this is so stupid. I'm laughing alone in my apartment into my phone. Bye!
Hi, Blank Check. It's your friend, Fran Hoffner, from all the way in New Jersey, and I wanted to reach out and wish you guys a happy 5th anniversary of doing the podcast. But before I get into the things I want to say, what I actually want to do is just fill in the back 30 minutes from my Public Enemies episode, because I feel like I didn't get to say enough about how cute Stephen Graham is, and now seems like the sort of perfect opportunity to get in all of my opinions. Just kidding. It's hard to do a just kidding bit when it's just you alone recording on your phone. But thank you for the show, and thank you for having me on. Thank you for letting me ask if John Krasinski in The Holiday is the Adam Driver of Lincoln of 2006. You guys have introduced me to many movies that I think it would have taken me at least 2 to 5 years to find on my own. I'm thankful for, the broadcast news episode, and for the Billy Lynn episode, and any long diatribe about The Mule and or Green Book, which, as far as I'm concerned, are kind of just the same movie in my mind now. I listen to this podcast either when I am commuting or when I am running or taking a walk, and so I get to experience this very unique point of joy where I get to listen to people talk to movies, which is one of my favorite things, but also be outside, which is its own unique kind of loveliness. So thank you in a very literal sense for making being in the world a nice and wonderful place, and I hope you guys do at least 5 more years, and then maybe it should be done. Okay, love you.
Hey Blank Check crew, it's Emily Vanderwerf here for some trans representation. So David and I used to be in a Slack together, and I remember when he started talking about this podcast he was going to do with his friend Griffin. Honestly, it sounded like the worst thing imaginable. A whole podcast about the Phantom Menace? Clearly I needed to save my friend from some bad influences. But 5 years later, Blank Check isn't just my favorite podcast. It's a show that's gotten me through some incredibly hard times and some big changes in my life. I'm so honored to be a once and future guest on the show, and I've been touched by the fan responses I've gotten to the Silence of the Lambs episode in particular. Griffin and David, Ben and Ange and Rachel, you've all made something wonderful and funny and occasionally profound, and I will listen for many, many years to come. Thank you. I'm good. I'm scared. I miss my friends. Downtown Los Angeles is empty, and it's been raining, and this is some real Blade Runner shit. I hate being stuck inside, but I'm glad this show will keep rolling on. I'm glad all of us have this community of weirdos to come home to every week. Before I wrap, though, I've got a taco report. So I'm at Gorilla Tacos, an amazing taco joint here in DTLA, and there's this huge collection of tween girls just screaming their heads off, eating tacos, making a mess, and I become aware there is a dad sitting with them, surrounded by taco detritus, eyes closed, hands folded together in front of his face in the eternal gesture of, oh God, make it stop. That man, ladies, gentlemen, non-binary friends, was Jon Favreau. I'm sorry it wasn't a burger report. I really had one once and then I forgot it. Love you folks. Love you blankies. See you when they let us out of our houses. I will be back on this fucking show. I swear to God.
Hello, this is Chris Weitz, director, screenwriter, occasional producer, blankie, Patreon subscriber, and left me a lovely message soliciting some kind of comment about movies and about blank check in general. So here it goes. I'm probably going to get interrupted because we've got 3 children at home, which is of course wonderful. It tends to impinge on the work quite a bit, but I think I've gotten 5 minutes aside to do this. So some reflections on movies, which are going to sound a bit airy-fairy, but these are very emotional times. Anyway, I've been trying to focus my 12-year-old in this whole homeschooling endeavor, and one thing he seemed interested in was to learn about filmmaking, perhaps just because he knows that it would involve watching movies. So we've been watching The Seven Samurai in bits and pieces, not the way that it should be watched, of course. And we will watch about a half an hour, and I will yammer on to him about the things that Kurosawa is doing, the amazing way that he organizes scenes, how he uses his experience as an AD to move crowds so beautifully, to organize movement. And I will say, oh, here's some jump cuts. We haven't seen those in the movie so far. And look at this. What kind of lens is this? Is it wide or is it tight? And this is called an over-the-shoulder shot. And talk about the editing rhythms and everything. And of course, once you start to cut these things up enough, it almost seems as though you're losing the particular magic of film. But actually, I realized that. As he and I watched this and we talked about it, and we would say, "Oh, that guy's so badass. He's so amazing. We love that samurai." The interesting position of watching a movie. I mean, in part, it's sort of like I used to think it was sort of like when robbers substitute some security camera video, right, and that you were hijacking your inner perception, perhaps your inner reality, with something externally supplied, and so I guess that's sort of escapism. For a while, you are not yourself. You are whatever the movie is, and indeed, it's really wonderful when you leave a movie theater and you have this strange sense that the atmosphere of the movie is continuing. You sort of find yourself thinking and acting, sometimes foolishly, like a character in one of those in the film. But actually, I was thinking, watching Seven Samurai with my son, that it's more than that. It's actually as though you're not all gone. There's still a large part of you there. There's a commenting part, an observing part, and it's this kind of extraordinary, kind of metaphysical feeling, like you are a god or an angel, albeit one that doesn't have the power to affect what's going on in front of you. But you're kind of, I guess, maybe you're Uatu the Watcher, right? You are experiencing this strange transcendent thing of life taking place in front of you. And I've often thought, and this is perhaps where it gets super airy-fairy, that people like me who are lucky enough to be able to make these things, these kind of weird, contained, waking visions, are sort of in the position of a priesthood, right? We get to kind of create these ritual experiences for people. Sometimes we have, extra bits of knowledge that help us do that well. In fact, everybody can do it, as we know from YouTube. But occasionally we are given the extra sort of ritual tools and techniques, and sometimes we even know a thing or two about how to do these things. Of course, there's some, like your Kurosawas or Director Bong, who seem to channel this sort of divine ability more than others, and the rest of us are kind of, parish priests, as it were. This kind of brings me to this metaphor that occurred to me, like how to encapsulate what I think about what David and Griffin and Ben do. when we were making Rogue One, that is, say, Gareth Edwards and the rest of the team on Rogue One and I, Gareth was very keen to portray a universe in which the Jedi were absent, but there were still people who kind of kept the flame alive, these sort of Force-sensitive people. So we made up these characters, Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus, and they were guardians of the wills. I went back to the old books of early Lucas nerddom and imagined these sort of monks or priests who were not who didn't have Jedi powers, but they sort of kept things alive. And I sort of think that way about the two friends. Or I'm going to also throw in Ben, and I'm going to throw in Ange as well, and all of the contributors to Blank Check, that they are these kind of Force sensitives to the Jedi powers of movie making, and they keep this belief in something transcendent alive. So, Griffin's like Baze Malbus, and Dave's like Chirrut Imwe. I don't know who's who. Anyway, when I think about Blank Check and all of the time I've spent with them, it really, I'm just filled with gratitude for how they have reignited my care for movies, both high and low. I feel whenever I'm listening to Blank Check, and I've told this to the Czech guys themselves, that I feel like I'm in a more humane and thoughtful and kindly space than I am at other times. And I think that the world that they imagine, all of them, and I mean also, Ange and the Mother Blankies and all of J.D. Amato and all of the wonderful guests who come on, I feel as though I'm in a kindler universe for a little while, and one in which I can focus again on the extraordinary power that these movies have to entertain us and to also entertain our spirits in a deeper way. So thank you guys. Everybody out there, stay cool, stay indoors, I guess, and catch you on the other side of this. Bye-bye.